Wow, doesn't feel like 4 weeks, does it? Hello everybody and welcome back to the GPVWC Super League. Oh, do we have a show for you folks. It's the Nurburgring in Germany and it is going to be one heck of an encounter. We've had our summer break and now it's time to get the show back on the road in the best and strongest possible terms. It's going to be a really interesting one to see how this is going to work out for everybody because, of course, we've had 4 weeks of incredibly fastidious work in the development race, and now we have a proper second half of the season in front of us. Jake Sanson and Josh Anderson in the commentary box here from the Nurburgring with only a couple of minutes left to go in qualifying, and I tell you what folks, this one will be an interesting one. Josh, good evening once again, my friend.
And good evening to you too once again, Jake. Cracking privilege to be back with you in the comments box once again for the German round of the Super League. And boy, oh boy, we got a show for you. We've got a German track, we got Super League cars, we've got loads of development, we've got a two-time world champion coming back, and many more things to discuss this round. And I'm sure we'll be getting to all that. But of course, before all of that comes qualifying, and it's looking to be the Rudy Van Buren show once again. At the moment, he's almost half a second ahead of Lee Morris, who is ahead of Capit by just 6 thousandths of a second. That's how close it is at the top. But Rudy Van Buren stamping his mark down in this qualifying session, hoping to add yet another win to his tally. And I'll tell you this, Jake, for a driver who has finished in either first or second in every single race he's finished this year, which is every race bar one, that is going to be quite the achievement.
So clearly, you know, there has obviously been a little bit of a shift in terms of the development to Rudy Van Buren. He seems to have not had any of the problems in terms of his basically he's had no issues really coming into this one in terms of the summer break. Things are definitely going well, and it looks to me as though, if anything, he's actually kicked a stride rather than actually gone any further with it. He's still at the same sort of speed he was before.
Well, it's a speed, that sort of speed's won him races. He doesn't really need to improve much. He's been the dominant force this year, practically untouchable at the top of the table at the moment. Though, of course, there is still this whole second half of the season to come. And you've got the ever-present David Feidig down in fifth at the moment, who keeps telling us that he's a bit of a slow burner. He gets better towards the end of the season. He could be on for a bit of a resurgence here if Nordstrom can get their development right.
Now, we've got a few drivers returning, as you said. In particular, the one guy everybody is talking about here is Lucas Euler. Now, that is a really big comeback at this stage of the season. Can he put any form of challenge into the mix here? Because let's be fair, he is a multiple champion, but he hasn't won a race in the Super League since 2014, Josh.
Yeah, he didn't have a very good I don't think he was about in 2015, and if he was, it was in a very small capacity. But yeah, he had a brilliant run in Super League, of course, winning in 2012 and 2013 the Drivers' Championships. Really was the dominant force, and then he went away, and it was a shame because that was about when I joined the GPVWC, and it was all about Lucas in Super League, and it is a real honour to see him back in a Super League car, and I'm intrigued to see what he can do. I mean, obviously time doesn't seem to have dulled his skills. He's up there in the top 10. And, well, you can understand if he's not at the top. R-Factor 2 is a difficult simulation to get to for anyone, even a double world champion like Euler. But it's going to be interesting to see how the German, at his home Grand Prix, reacclimatises to the league that, well, has made him a double champion.
And there's a few more driver changes around the paddock as well. Storm Racing team now has Tobias Olsen in alongside Sven de Vries. So two new drivers into that particular mark. But Tobias Olsen obviously departing Hawkeye to make way for Lucas Euler. We've also seen a few other drivers shuffle about. Maciej Mlinek is actually going to be in for Street Fighter Racing this time, so great to see him back. And Jarl Teyen is back in the Valters Automotive car, as well as Daniel Benefield being back in at Kernau. And no Thomas Hinz, Josh Anderson. What's happening there? Right Kilk into partner Michael Ayres at Red Archer.
Yeah, that is a surprise to not see Hinz here. He's been a present force all season, though I have been chatting with him. I think his life is getting a bit busier, to be honest, so I don't know whether he'll be, this is just a one-off, maybe he just can't do this race, or whether this is something more permanent. But we'll have to see what's happening with Hinz, but it is a shame to not see him here. He has been, as we say, a dominant, you know, presence. He's always been here. We love to see him on the track. So it would be a shame if this is something a bit more permanent and Kilk coming in as a more permanent driver, but, you know, it remains to be seen, I guess.
Well, the session comes to an end, and it's Rudy Van Buren who is just 0.1 of a second in the end in front of Lee Morris, who is able to get closer to him. Risto Caput and Alex Cooper on the second from David Feidick and Nick Rowland. A host of Brits in the top 6 then. Fran Lopez and Gergo Baldi from Lucas Euler in 9th. And Tobias Olsen, despite changing teams, is 10th in the Storm Racing team car. Only 0.03 of a second off the man he's replaced. Jarl Tejan, though, right at the bitter end of the session on his final flying lap, has just shot up to 5th position. He is now the leading Wouters Automotive driver right at the bitter end of qualifying. That's an interesting one.
That is very, 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 very interesting. Well, do you know what's even more interesting? Look at 8th and 9th. Fran Lopez and Gergo Baldi, the exact same time, to the 1,000th of a second. Lopez going into 4 digits just to get ahead there. Yeah,
it looks to me, well, according to my timing screen on the R-Factor screen, they're now separating it by 1,000th of a second in favor of Fran Lopez. So they've just made the adjustment. But yeah, really, really close there between those two. With 2 drivers not setting lap times at all, I notice, in Florian Geyer and Gerrit de Vries. Now, that's a big one there in particular for Florian Geyer, Josh.
Geyer wouldn't have any point in really setting a lap time because he already has a back of the grid penalty to serve. De Vries, though, is a surprise. Maybe a bit of a late joiner or just decided not to qualify. I don't know. I'll start from the back. But Geyer already had that penalty contended with, as does Nick Rowland, as does Daniel Sharanku, so they'll start from the back. Geyer actually has a 5 stop to serve in, as well as that. And so, yeah, he's got quite a few penalties to serve, so I guess he didn't think it was worth setting a lap because he'd start the back anyway.
Yeah, Jeff Fournier confirming what you were saying a little bit earlier on, Josh, in that Thomas Hinz won't come back this year, he's pretty sure, which is a real shame. He's been a real strong charger in the first half of the year, and we hope for a full-time return in 2018. But, yeah, interesting. Daniel Sharanku, obviously one of the drivers who would have to start the race from the back of the grid. He's now been replaced for this one by Jarl Tejan. I was disappointed that we really didn't get to see what he could do in this race at Silverstone. Now we're back at the Nurburgring. He genuinely has a chance to show people what he's made of from the 3rd row of the grid.
Yeah, he really can. Jarl to be up there. I've always said about Jarl Tejan, he is a very talented driver, can be brilliant on his day, but he's never had the chance so far in Super League this year to have a crack at it. So, you know, from 5th on the grid in that Wouters, maybe this is going to be his chance. Of course, don't forget Alex Cooper as well. In 4th place, race winner this year, and, well, one of my personal favourites, Alex Cooper. He's in that number 2 Hawkeye. 4th place could be on for some brilliant manoeuvring, and we saw some brilliant manoeuvring from Hungary last time, didn't we?
We certainly did. I actually wanted to ask a little bit about the decision by Florian Geyer not to compete in qualifying. Now, I know, of course, that he's got the penalty of starting at the back of the grid. Is there any percentage, though, from his point of view, to still take the qualifying session just to see what kind of lap times he can do compared to other people? Or is there just no point in terms of strategy? Because I know that in various other forms of sim racing, let alone full motor racing, you would still go out in qualifying just to get a lap time in. So what would the reason be for not gaining that extra track knowledge? What would that be for?
Well, he had the penalty anyway, so it wouldn't really make much difference. But, of course, if he'd set a lap time, those would be the tyres that he has to use in the qualifying session. And, of course... Oh,
sorry, Josh. Zupanek and David Feidick have actually come together in the warm-up session.
Oh, wow.
On the first chicane.
That has happened. I was just watching, actually. Yeah, that has happened.
I wonder if we can actually get a replay of that to show people on the stream.
I think what it was Feidick was taking it slowly on his outlap, and Zupanek went straight into race pace mode. A bit of a misunderstanding between the two of them. Not really the way you want to be starting your race weekend, Benz.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've been off for 4 weeks, but that's not the way to come back to school. We're going to have a look at it on the stream, and yeah, that we have just seen a replay of it now on the stream, and that's a very interesting way to return to school, as it were. Wasn't exactly expecting that on the way back. I tell you what, I really have missed this. And, Zupanek has now just had a massive shunt.
I think he's taken playtime a bit early.
Yeah, absolutely. Zupanek has had a massive shunt on the way through the S's on the far side of the circuit. But interesting how much chatter there is on the stream as everybody has decided to come back and get themselves into it. Welcome to everybody watching on the stream. We've got Ryan Nash on. Chris Shepherd is back in the room. Obviously, VBM are watching very closely indeed. Hello, Mike Pittman. And Gerdner and Jeff Fournier and the likes of them are on. So it should be a really, really interesting run. Do please chat with us all the way through the race, of course. We will try and get as many of your comments up on the stream, provided that they're completely suitable. Of course, Andreas Valters is saying hello as well. And we've got ourselves some really interesting racing ahead of us. Now, question, can anybody beat Rudy Van Buren today, or has the 4-week break been as kind to Vodbull as it has to anybody else, Josh?
Well, it's not looking likely, and from the form I've seen Van Buren in, this could really be something special from the Dutchman. I think he's going to be on for a great win. Possibly, well, that's what the smart money was, and he wouldn't be against it. But, you know, the likes of Morris, Capet, Cooper could throw a spanner in the works if Van Buren doesn't get his way. I mean, to go back to the whole Florian Geyer argument, if he can get far up the grid, he could cause Van Buren some problems. If not, you know, win this race. Obviously, not competing in qualifying, possibly to get a strategical advantage, because, of course, if you do a lap in qualifying, you have to take the back tyre. So Geyer, by not doing any laps, has free choice over what tyres he uses if the situation changes.
Not only is this one of my favourite circuits in Europe as well, with this being the Nurburgring, even the short Grand Prix circuit is as exciting for single-seaters as the long Nordschleife is for GT racing. But Josh, have you seen the sky? It's looking a little bit dark and broody out there.
And that could play into Guy's hands if it does decide to chuck it down. I have been watching the weather forecast, which we use, obviously we use live weather at the GPVWC, using weatherunderground.com as our weather source. And, well, I've been checking it out. It says there's no rain due, but we have had a big rainstorm pass by the track in the last couple of hours. Obviously, the remnants of that here at the moment. I'm not anticipating rain, but it would make things very interesting if it started.
Yeah, I can definitely sense that it's possible over the course of the race. Rudy Van Buren just going out there to bang in a lap just to see what the circuit conditions are like. Again, you know, we've seen these warm-up periods before. What exactly are the drivers gaining in terms of knowledge just before the start of the race? What can you actually learn that can take you into the first stint of the race here, Josh?
Well, if you're on the super softs and the ultra softs, you can do a very, very early race sit, you know, 6 or 7 laps. Find out roughly how long the tyres are lasting on full pelt, perhaps, or maybe fuel the car up and go for a race stint, maybe with a more conservative strategy. You know, it's a great last 10 minutes to find out and finalise strategy. You know, strategies are changed on the fly in racing, and lots of teams will be dialing in these final numbers in warm-up. Of course, Park Ferme active, so they can't really change the setup so far. But, you know, they will be able to change strategy. They'll be able to pick out a different strategy. If it starts raining, they'll be able to prepare for that. So, you know, warm-up can be as important as qualifying sometimes.
Now, this is obviously an abrasive circuit. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of undulation changes. It's very aggressive in terms of the suspension settings, in terms of tyre wear. The track temperature, though, is at 16... Oh, the air temperature is about 16 degrees. So what do you have to add? Like 5-6 degrees to that for the track. So you're talking about 22 degrees in terms of track temperature, roughly. So how long do we think these tyres are going to last, given what we've seen so far this year? Are we looking at 6 stops, maybe 7 potentially?
Well, you know, there are lots of stops in the racing. You know, it's not something I'm a big fan of, to be honest, and I've been quite vocal about this before. I'm not a massive fan of there being loads of stops, but it's the nature of Super League, it seems. So we will be seeing a lot of stops and a lot of softer tyres being used, I think, as has been the norm this season. And maybe a 6 or 7 stop strategy might be the fastest thing. And tell you who's someone who could tell all about strategy. We've been joined by a Mike Pittman, who I'm sure would be more than happy to have a chat with us. Hello, Mike.
Hi, yeah. Only obviously got a few minutes, but yeah, thought I'd come say hello before the race. That's what is becoming normal now.
Absolutely. So yeah, just before you get out onto the pit wall, then what is, as far as you're concerned, the deciding factor in this race? What is going to be the crucial race-winning factor today? Do you think?
Wow. But to be honest, for us, it's going to be the start. It really is for us. If we can get ourselves into that 1-2, we seem to be getting the jump on everyone on the start grid. If we can carry that on and get into the front, then I'm quietly confident. I know there was an awful lot more in Rudy for that whole lap. That could have been so much bigger gap than that. He's kicking himself, potentially half a second quicker than that. So
really?
On that. Yeah, before the race we were doing 30.3s. So he's annoyed he didn't get a clean. It's his own fault. You know, he held up his hands. He didn't quite do it. So we got lucky really that we didn't get any higher. Risto on the other hand did quite a good lap because he's got a much less powered engine, so he started a lot higher than we expected. So the start itself will be a big factor, and it's going to, again, who can last these tyres? I'm hearing some drivers can't last them past lap 6, the ultras. We're not quite in that category, but I know some people will complain to me. So I'm be looking at where our rivals hit first.
My last question before you head to the pit wall. Can Risto challenge for the win today, do you think?
On skill, yeah, but he hasn't got the machine to do it. He's on his last race with this engine, whereas Rudy's got a brand new one. That's about 2 tenths a lap difference we've worked out, which you can see in the pole time is about 2 tenths back. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Have fun, gents.
We certainly shall, mate. Have a good one.
Yep.
Cheers.
So, who else do we need to have a word about? Well, Nero Tiberius writes, I never thought I'd see Sven de Vries back in GPVWC. Well, this is GPVWC. Anything can happen, and it usually does, Josh.
As we've proven by Lucas Euler coming back, it is kind of a bit of the comebacks. You know, everywhere you look, you can see things coming back. You know, you've got Sven de Vries back, Lucas Euler back, my lack of commentating ability back.
No, absolutely not. Right, Kilk is there, Jarl Tyen is there, of course, and that's really going to be interesting. I'm still frustrated. I think I've said this before. I'm frustrated about what we didn't see from Jarl Tyen right up at the sharp end at Silverstone. Hopefully we get that here at the Nurburgring this time by. But, yeah, it's not going to be the same race without Thomas Hinz, is it? I'm just going to be so underwhelmed if there isn't a Red Archer challenging up the front end. Jeff Fournier has made a point that both Adonis and Red Archer are on super softs. That's an interesting take on the strategy. There's actually going to be quite a few interesting choices in terms of strategy that the teams have gone with for this one. But fastest in the warm-up by half a second nearly is Gergo Baldi with his teammate Jarl Tyen alongside him. So the Wouters Automotive team have obviously tried to get a setup in there where they can get a little bit faster in terms of their lap times. Rudy Van Buren has been out, but has not completed a full lap until now and has only done a 1:36.6. So I have a feeling they're only looking at race strategy. It'll be interesting to see whether they decide to go for longer stints or shorter stints in the early stages. But as we made the point there with Mike Pittman telling us so, this race could potentially be won and lost at the start. And actually, as we talk about that, David Feidek is actually on the starting grid, perfecting his starts. If he gets a good one, well, this race could be in dire jeopardy for Vodbull.
Yeah, well, it could be interesting if the start's going to be so important for them, but, well, you never know what's going to happen at the start. There could be a 22-car pile-up, even though there's only 22 cars in the server. Everyone could crash, we could have a red flag, we could restart, and everything could go drastically wrong. You never know what's going to happen, but at the same time, everyone could get a perfect start, and we're going to have a fantastic lap one. You know, this is Super League. Nothing is a given.
That's true, and Feidek actually just practicing his start in front of our position has actually just slewed the car straight into the left-hand barrier with far too much wheel spin. So obviously even the pros are not devoid of making mistakes, so it's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on as the warm-up session comes to an end with only Fran Lopez and Florian Gaia still out on the track. And this is going to be an interesting one, though. Now, we've obviously got some penalties to dish out. And unfortunately, one of those is Jarl Tyen, who I believe was given a back of the grid penalty as a result of the incident back at Silverstone. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a couple of back of the grid penalties to serve. Flo Gaia is one of them, as is Nick Rowland, as is Daniel Shuranku, all from Hungary. There may be a couple from Silverstone too. Well, I am only looking at the Hungarian penalties, though.
Well, yeah, well, so Shuranku, of course, cannot take that because it's Jarl Tyen who's replaced him. So I don't think it's he can't be serving his penalty. Surely he must. We don't do that in GPVWC. I'm very sure he doesn't serve someone else's penalty. So that's an interesting one. Now, Rudy Van Buren is just having a chat in the stream. Lee P2, he would have dropped below. He would have not dropped with that below P3, wasn't it? He says. Yeah,
I think this is Lee Morris taking a slower lap and Bristol Cabot doing the same. So it might work out to do something else. Jarl Tyen's now asking for a lap to be moved as well, so there may be another change to the grid, but still, I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, obviously, last-minute changes to the grid, maybe Tyen's going to be ignored in this instance, but we should be going to the race soon either way.
This is going to be a really interesting race, folks. Who on earth is going to win this one? I think most people have got a general idea as to who's going to win at the top of the table, but who's going to be second and third? Well, that's a really, really big question mark because there's so many drivers who could well get to that position. You've got Wouters have clearly struck gold in terms of their early strategy setup, both of their drivers in the top 10 this time, so there's a good chance that they might have a little bit more to play with. Nordsjön, well, they've only got one driver at the front, but they have got two cars that are going to be particularly entertaining. Ryan Nash says Lucas Euler to surprise and win the race. I tell you what, that would be an amazing coup for the championship, and it would really wipe the smile off Vodbull Motorsport's face.
It would be the Cinderella story, wouldn't it? Double world champion comes back and shows he hasn't lost any of his edge. But, you know, he was a bit off in qualifying. It obviously races something totally different. I don't see Euler winning, but I see him being a present force in the top 5.
So let's see how the drivers are going to cope with this one in what promises to be a very, very close race indeed. We're going to have Rudy Van Buren and Lee Morris on the front row of the starting grid, and not for the first time this year either. Now, that in itself could spark fireworks. If Lee Morris gets a good start here, Josh, then it's already going to be Rudy Van Buren with his back to wall, especially in that first hairpin. And there's a couple of drivers that will want, more than anything, just to shake up the form book a little bit and potentially give themselves a better chance by banzaiing into that first corner. This is one of those first turns in motor racing where if you're a little bit risky at the first corner, you can actually make a difference to the rest of your race.
Yeah, obviously races aren't won in turn 1 as well. Several drivers I'm sure have learnt in the past. But, you know, a good start, which I always seem to make when I'm racing as just, you know, I am good at the start and then I lose all my places. But it's important, you know, because if I can get up to like 22nd, if I can go up to 12th, that's going to give me confidence. So a good start gives you confidence. It doesn't just move you further up. It's going to really help the mental side of things as well as the drivers start to make their way to the grid. Gergo, Baldy, Ben Horrell, Dan Lovett, all forming up now. And this is going to be a very interesting start, as you say, Jake. Turn 1 rewards risks sometimes. It's one of those few corners where risk really does equal reward, and drivers can make the most of taking a bit of an advantageous look at the car ahead of them, perhaps. So, you know, the likes of Van Buren, Morris, Capit, they're all going to want to watch out at the front because they'll be having guys come back in them from 2 other positions now.
I know what you mean, actually. I like starting at the back of the grids of races because those first few corners can be very, very interesting if you're just a little bit patient. And we might get a few drivers like the likes of Jarl Tyen or Florian Gaia or even Nick Rowland from the back who may make up a lot of time. But now we're on the rolling lap here of this 60-lap German Grand Prix in the GPVWC Super League. Let's talk you through the grid. Rudy Van Buren on pole position once again for Vodbull Racing in the 14 car. Lee Morris in the Mad Cape 62 joins him on the front row of the starting grid. Risto Capit in the second Vodbull. Number 15 is there in P3, the Estonian. Alongside him is another Brit, Alex Cooper in the number 2 Hawkeye, looking for his second win of the season. David Fidek in the leading Nordsjön Racing, the reigning champion, lines up in 5th position with Fran Lopez right up in P6 in the Adonis number 7. This could be a really strong race for him. Gergo Baldi lines up P7 in the Wouters Automotive number 30 with Lucas Euler, the returnee in the Hawkeye number 3, back in P8. Tobias Olsson switches to Storm Racing and he's still in the top 10 in car number 80 for Storm Racing. Ben Schubenek rounds out the top 10 in the Kerno Sport number 83. Maciej Mlinek makes his return to the Super League. Once again, the super sub for Street Fighter, number 67, is 11th on the grid, alongside Sven de Vries, who makes a long-awaited return to Super League in the Storm Racing Team number 75 car in 12th. Dan Benefield is once again in the Kerno Sport number 12. He's 13th on the starting grid, alongside Wopke Hoekstra in the Adonis Engineering number 4 car in 14th. Dan Lovett is the leading Green Stripes Racing car up in 15th position on the starting grid, alongside another returnee for Red Archer, Wright Kilk, replacing Thomas Hinz in car number 6. Michael Ayres, his teammate, is alongside on the 9th row of the grid, sharing that row with Ben Horrell in the Street Fighter Racing number 11 in 18th spot. Then we have our final 4, Gerrit de Vries in the second of the Green Stripes Racing cars in 19th. Nick Rowland in the second Mad Cape Racing team takes a penalty and starts from 20th. Another returnee, Jarl Tyen, lines up in 21st on the grid for Wouters Automotive. And then right at the back of the grid is Silverstone race winner Flo Gaia in the Nordsjön Racing 27. Look for fireworks from the back of the grid.
Yeah, it could be a crucial start for these back runners, as it could be the front runners. Looking at the top 6, in fact, Van Buren, Morris, Cabot, Cooper, Fidek, Lopez. Any one of them, I think, could probably win this race. Though, you know, the smart money's on Van Buren, but I've never been a fan of the smart money. So I'm going to say good old Alex Cooper to win it.
This could be a really interesting start, and obviously the entire race could depend on this start. Mike Pittman told us pre-race that's where this race will be won and lost. It's all on the start. The lights are coming on. When they go out, we're racing in the Nurburgring. Hold it. Go. Perfect start for Rudy Van Buren. No wheel spin. Risto Capit's got a good one as well. Lee Morris is bogged out, and into third position we got somebody off further back, and it's caused a bit of a melee. Couple of cars all jostling for position further back, and we've got a little bit of a tussle into the first corner. Has everybody got through without too much incident? Yes, no major spins in turn one. In turn two, it may well be the same. They've just about got through without too many dramas, but out in front, it is still the same as you were. Oh, there's contact in the middle of the corner. Tobias Olsen has had a tangle there.
Yeah, Olsen just got involved in some incident there. Yeah, the Storm driver just came down into turn 2, and he was there, and he was around the outside, and when it was turn 3, and oh, it looked like Benefield just overshot the corner, went into the side of the Swede, went into the back of him again, spun him round, managed to avoid further contact, but he's gone off the track again now. Really bad start for Olsen, but back in the front, it is Van Buren from Capit. Vodbull 1-2 to start, then Morris, Baldy, Fidek, Lopez, Cooper, Zapanic.
And that's perfect for Vodbull. They really wanted a good start. They have made good work of this off the line. No wheel spin. Van Buren and Capit leading in the early stages from Morris, Baldy, Fidek, Lopez, Cooper, Zupanek, De Vries and Benefield, with Lucas Euler in 11th position in front of Wopke Hoekstra. Then it's Roland Horrell, Kilt, Lovett, Ayers, De Vries. Mleinek is there in 19th position. Yaltayan is in 20th in front of Flo Gaia, so none of those two have made any major progress. Tobias Olsen in 22nd position, so obviously caution on the first lap. Everybody wanting to get things done relatively simply on the first lap, as Roland goes to battle with Ben Horrell in the mid-pack in the final chicane, and they both very nearly come off the road. But yes, Benefield, the driver involved in that incident with Tobias Olsen, they just tapped wheels in the braking zone, and that was enough to put Benefield offline on the left-hand side. He went over the grass and went straight back into the side of Olsen. So I don't know whether you can blame Tobias Olsen for that incident or Benefield for that incident. I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but it's very Rosberg and Hamilton-ish. If you push a guy onto the grass, he's not going to be able to slow down. He'll just crash straight into you.
Roland's made up 8 places and all that. That is absolutely sensational of him, and he's on his charge. He really is. As I've said, a very talented driver, knows what he's doing in that Madcape car. He's proven that in the past too. And wow, there's a beautiful scrap forming up. We got 5, 6, 7, 8. No, we're not listening to steps. We're listening to V6s as these four go on it.
Just watching a replay, Maciej Mleinek has been assassinated from the race by Tobias Olsen as he tries to recover. Olsen just missed his braking point in the second turn, the left-hander in the stadium section, and pitched his car straight into the back of Mleinek. Now, I have a feeling that if that's been picked up, he will get a penalty for that one. It's a shame for Tobias Olsen because that was not intentional, but he just missed his braking point, and that's enough to cause a problem for another racer. So that is a big concern there for Tobias Olsen in the Storm car.
Yeah, Olsen won't be very pleased about that. Perhaps our race directors, Chris Williamson and Elise Skinner, have picked that up. They'll be looking at that and deciding on any relevant action, or maybe looking at it after the race, as is usually the case with disciplinary incidents. But yeah, Van Buren, though, still making a very good, a dominant start. Hasn't been the norm in Superleague for him. 1.5 seconds ahead of Capit after 2 laps, getting about 7/10 a second on the Estonian. And, well, RVB seems to be running away with it once again as he's had the fastest lap at 1:34.8.
But fair play to Risto Capit. He's really stormed the crows in this start. It's not easy to beat somebody of the caliber of Lee Morris off the line, and he has taken that baton and run with it and got himself into second position in fine fettle at the moment. So Risto Capit looking good. Let's remember, of course, though, that he's on an old engine. He's got to be at least a minimum of 0.2 of a second per lap slower than Rudy Van Buren as this race develops. So this is gold dust for the Vodbull Racing team. This is Risto Capit in second position, basically playing the ultimate Rubens Barrichello role, isn't it? The number 2, the perfect number 2, as he runs there in second position, almost allowing Rudy Van Buren to get away. He won't be wanting that to happen. He's a racing driver. He'll want to win his own race, but there's nothing he can do about it with a car that just isn't going to be able to cope with Rudy Van Buren. His only hope, really, of a victory, even in these early stages, you have to say, Josh, is if Rudy hits trouble.
Yeah, and the chances of that happening are minimal because he's practically not made a single mistake all season, has he? He's been rock solid consistency, and well, that's why he's been winning so many races. But Could be an interesting fight near the further back ends of the field. You know, we're getting the Van Buren show up front. But look, good noises going up in the middle of the pack as well. Definitely, at least as Sven de Vries has just whispered me to say hi in the middle of the race. Hi, Sven.
Florian Geyer making the move on the inside of Michael Ayres in the Vidal chicane as he makes the move up the inside. I'm calling it the Vidal chicane, and up and over goes Michael Ayres as he tries to defend from Florian Geyer. Geyer gets through, no problem at all. That chicane changes names more times than I change my socks over the course of a year. But for me, it'll be forever known as the Vidal chicane. We've got another change of position there as Dan Benefield has lost 10th position to Lucas Euler. Euler has made the move there in turn 1, and it was a pretty tasty overtake as well.
Yeah, it was on the approach in turn 1. Obviously, Euler had the draft on. Benefield just outbraked him clean as a whistle through there. Brilliant move from the double world champion on his return to Super League, of course. Into 10th place, perhaps not quite where he wants to be, but he hasn't really put a foot wrong this race, and you can't fault his performance at all.
Satellite Racing writes on YouTube, I wonder if Nick is going to follow Lucas around just for old time's sake. That would be pretty special.
Big back. Problems in the back. Yeah, Tynes had an off there, and it was a fairly major one as well. He got involved with Ben Horrell. It was coming up to, they're just coming into, they got clanged wheels, and then Horrell right into the side. He dropped the car straight into the side of Jarl Tyne. It was It was coming into out of the it was coming out of the Mercedes Arena section up to the Dunlop car, and problems occurred. It was just Horrell dropped it on the gravel after being pushed wide, and yeah, he just lost it into the side of Tyne.
Yeah, Tyne was working his way through the field fairly rapidly as he made his impression on the race. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, to be honest. There was big damage to his car as a result of the contact. Jarl Tyne is actually going to really struggle now for the remainder of this race. It's a real shame because he was up to as high as P16, I think. So, really tough battles. Flo Geyer in 15th position, up the top of Dan Lovett. He's just made the move. BP Sim Racing and Design picking fun at me. I do change my socks, thank you very much indeed. Just not as often as I should, that's all. Right, we've got Vinny Van Buren and Risto Capet up at the front. Ben Schupanek is side by side with Alex Cooper. Cooper trying to get his nose squeezed in on the inside there out of the stadium section. Schupanek runs wide. Cooper's going to try and come back at him into the left-hander. Schupanek moves the car across. You are not coming back through, Bucko. Try something else as he now dives down the slope into the right-hander, and down they go to the hairpin. This is going to be a tricky one for Ben Schupanek to hang on to because he knows now that Alex Cooper is going to be very feisty in his attempts to get back through. But it's Van Buren, Capet, Morris, Baldi, Fidek, Lopez, Schupanek, Cooper, De Vries and Euler in the early stages.
Yeah, this is going to be a fantastic race. If these couple of laps have been anything to go by, Morris and Capet seem to be getting closer together, if anything. I've talked before about how good Morris is. He could be finding himself Morris dancing his way into Capet's reach sooner or later if he keeps this pace up, and it could be a sensational battle, as we know. Stepanek and Cooper are going to be a good one as well. And, well, Van Buren will just be holding the Capet and hold Morris behind him for as long as possible.
Yeah, and it's going to be tricky to do that, to be fair, because Risto Capet, as we know, is already on old engine. I'm fairly sure Lee Morris is on a new one, so he's going to have a little bit more power to play with in terms of not having to preserve the life of the car a little bit, whereas Risto Capet is a little bit more vulnerable in that regard. So from Lee Morris's point of view, he can just challenge here if there's any way to have a little chip at things as Alex Cooper pits on the end of lap 5. Now that is very early, but that's not exactly a major surprise because, of course, this is Super League in 2017 and the tyres last about as long as a Weetabix does in my breakfast bowl in the morning. Barely even manages 5 minutes. So Cooper has pitted very early indeed, drops back to 18th position in front of Maciej Mlinek. Tobias Olsen is in the pits. No major surprises there. He's had a very topsy-turvy start to his race already. Jarl Tyne is back up to 17th, I should point out now, thanks to Cooper's pit stop. He has worked his way past Mlinek and Gerrit de Vries. Flo Geyer is up to 14th. What we need to figure out, though, is when are the leaders going to come in? Because obviously Alex Cooper was up in, well, he was in, what, a 7th but 8th position, battling away with Schupanek, so only about 14 seconds off the lead. When are we going to see the Vodbull cars pit? Can they make their tyres last longer than the rest? If so, then they can actually cut themselves a pit stop, because 5 laps, by my calculation, that means they will have to stop. Well, surely that can't be 10 times. Surely they won't be able to have 10 pit stops in this race. They've got to do a little bit further than that, surely.
Well, Alex Cooper has gone under the super softs rather than the ultra softs in that next pit stop, so going for more tyre longevity. And, well, Jeffrey Fournier got it bang on. He said Cooper will pit very soon. Indeed, he did. And Fournier predicting 6 or 7 laps for the ultras. So, well, a 10 or 9 stop race if you go exclusively on ultras, but he can't do that, of course. You have to use 2 tyre compounds. As Jarl Tyrion just going to get past Dan Lovett ahead of Dan Cooper. Lovett seemed to back out of that massively. I think he just wanted to let them go. The tyre now crosses the road, and Cooper's going to go onto there. Has a go on Tyrion, but it doesn't work.
Capit versus Morris is eating up big style. Morris has caught up to the back of the Estonian, and now it is battle royale. Game on between these two. Morris has caught right up to Capit, and he is storming the Crows now. Can he make his way through the left, sweep down the crest, into the right-hander? Morris is now going to try his best to try and get one over on Capit. Plenty of curb from Risto, but is that going to be enough? Is there enough grip on the racing line once he comes off it to be able to handle it? He locks up into the hairpin. The pressure definitely on for the Estonian at the moment as he tries to hold Capit at bay. And in the meantime, David Fidek has made the move on Gergo Baldi for 4th place. He gets up into P4.
Yes, Fidek made a great move there to get through. Fitting of a world champion, of a reigning world champion. Really showing his stuff. Morris, though, is just not letting up on Capit. He comes round into the predecessor part, through into the Adran Bogen, into the Maydor chicane after that. 14,500 RPM in every gear for Morris. He's not giving anything. That's less than 100% here.
This is amazing stuff so far, and we're getting exactly the race that we wanted. The battle very much...
Capit in!
Yeah, so Risto Capit is the one who pits first. That is interesting.
As is RVB.
Right.
Oh, now this could be bad. They might have to stack it.
Are they going to... No, well, it is tough to know. Are they going to risk impeding Risto Capit here?
Yep, Capit's lost a little bit of time.
Oh,
a little bit, but only a little bit on the engine.
Fidek in, Baldi in, Lopez in, Schupanek in, so they're all coming into the pits together. And that means that Rudy Van Buren exits the pits in 2nd position, behind Lee Morris, of course. Lucas Euler is in 3rd position as a result of the pit stop shuffle. And Risto Capit rejoins right in front of Wopke Hoekstra. Nick Rowland in 6th from right kilt with Florian Gaia side by side. Gaia gets through. So that's an important pass for Florian Gaia. David Fidek in 9th position. Did I just see lightning? Did I just see lightning at the top of the... I'm not sure. Are we about to get rain after all?
Well, all Factor 2 is where that can give you sudden flashes of sunshine, but
I hope that's all it was.
I'll hold my breath on that one, because I'm not entirely sure whether we have rain forecast, but I will keep a very, very interesting eye on the weather, of course, as we race here. If it did rain, it would probably shake the whole race up, but yeah, interesting pit stops there. Obviously, Euler staying out, Capit's coming in as well. Van Buren, obviously, with the while to Morris now, but Morris is going to try and stay as quick as he can to make the advantage of this longer strategy.
So with Lee Morris out on the circuit, 9.3 seconds is now the gap to Rudy Van Buren. His tyres are destroyed. He's got to pit in. Yeah, Morris comes straight into the pits. Careful, careful! Oh, he was pushing it on the way in. He's definitely trying not to lose too much time. But staying out 1 lap longer for Lee Morris has definitely not worked. He's going to lose a lot of time to Rudy Van Buren, who already comes out of the final turn and down the straight. Morris is going to be a long way behind him, and I think actually he'll be behind Risto Capit when he exits as well, by quite a long way, because Morris just left it, for me, a lap too long. He tried to stretch the tyre life, and it hasn't worked, so now he's going to lose 3rd position.
Oh,
by quite a long way.
Roland in as his Euler. Has Roland not just pitted? I thought he did. No, he's under the super soft, so he must not have done that. Must be my mistake. But well, we talked about Euler versus Roland. It could actually happen now, because Euler is 12th and Roland is going to come out about. But there's not much between them on track.
So Van Buren is now 6.5 ahead of Risto Capit. It's about what we thought it would be. But Lee Morris is about 3 seconds now behind Risto Capit. That's how much time he's lost staying out for an additional lap. He's lost 3 seconds in those tyres in 1 lap. So that just shows you how long he can make the tyres last for. Now, the question is, what is he going to do on the super softs, which I imagine now most people are on, except for Wopke Hoekstra and Fran Lopez, interestingly. Wopke Hoekstra has yet to pit. Lopez has pitted, but stayed on the ultra softs.
He'll be changing tyres later in the race, I suspect, going for a stable start. Baldi giving serious chase to Lopez, though. Wouters versus Adonis, the battle here, of course. And, well, Gergo, we know how good he is. Obviously, Super League veteran as well, and knows his way around an open wheel car too. So keep an eye on him. byJake, yes.
byJake making the move on Wopke Hoekstra, and Wopke does not give any hesitation or resistance. He just lets him go. There's no point getting into that frenetic as Gergo Baldi makes the same move on Lopez, a few hundred meters behind them. So Baldi makes the move, and Ben Schubernek makes the same move on Michael Ayers at exactly the same place, a little bit further back. That chicane is the ultimate overtaking move at the moment here at the Nurburgring.
Is in as well to pit off of the ultra softs, as is Wopke. So Wopke is going to come in there and pit. So we got, obviously, pit stop cycle seems to be closing down now, and we're going to have a break in the pit stop action until the next lot of stops.
So Flo Gaia is going to move up into 12th position behind Tobias Olsen. Or is he going to have... No, he's going to have Wopke Hoekstra to overtake next on the road. So he's up to 13th as a result of the pit stop shove. Oh, look at Jarl up the inside there of Right Kilk. That was a critical overtake. Now he's got a chance to close up on Flo Gaia.
Hang on, something's happened with Euler because he's had to come into the pits again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Euler in for the second time in as many laps, pretty much. Now, what has happened here to Lucas Euler? Because he's clearly had some kind of incident out on the circuit.
You're going to have to go back and check us for that, Jake. I didn't know why he would pit. Personally, I couldn't see any damage to the car. Didn't look like anything was wrong.
I'll double check and try and get back as far as I can.
Euler says the drive-through. Apparently, Hawkeye in the chat saying the drive-through.
So that's got to be for speeding in the pit lane the last time. Well, I'm guessing Lucas Euler, obviously a little bit rusty, and he hasn't raced in the Super League, of course, since the early part of 2015. So that is a real disaster for Lucas Euler.
You can't really blame him though, can you? I mean, it was difficult for anyone.
And of course, the last time he would have raced in Super League, it would have been R-Factor 1. So a big transition for him. People say that there's not much to choose between the two, but I tell you what, sim racers will tell you there is a big, big difference.
Yeah, especially, you know, the top guys like Van Buren, Kappa, they'll tell you there's a massive difference. And, well, you know, the difference, obviously, you know, for any sim racer coming back into it is, well, difficult. But it's going to be interesting to see how Euler gets on in the rest of the season. Maybe this just hasn't been his race, Germany, his own race, of course. But maybe he'll get a bit more experience and get his form back towards the rest of the season.
Wopke Hoekstra makes a very nice move on Tobias Olsen into the first corner. Flo Gaia and Jarl are the ones who are trying to close up on them, with Nick Rowland trying to get closer to Right Kilk further back. But yes, Lucas Euler now is trying to close up on the Green Stripes racing cars of Dan Lovett and Gerrit de Vries, who are not far away from each other. But Rudy Van Buren leads the way, 8.3 seconds clear of Risto Capet, who is only 1.3 ahead of Lee Morris. Can we just pick that up now? Because Risto Capet has lost over half of the gap he had after the pit stops.
Morris is on fire at the moment. His last lap was pretty much half a second quicker, yeah. So Morris on those tyres is making more use of Capet than them at the moment. But, you know, Morris on pace is matching Van Buren. He needs to catch him, not match him. It's not enough.
So with Rudy Van Buren out in the lead of the race as he goes into his 12th lap, Risto Capet is actually now losing time to Lee Morris, who has not given up on his aspirations of winning this race. It clearly is going to be a tough fight for him to get there, but in the hope that Rudy Van Buren has an issue, the man he's beating today, or trying to beat today at least, is Risto Capet, and he is absolutely on it. He's such a brave bulldog into the first corner braking zone. He just charges in, absolutely no conviction, full confidence on the lock stops, and the car just stops. The wheels don't lock. But it's very beautiful to watch him as he continues to pound around the circuit, trying to eat into that advantage Risto Capet has, which is currently at just a second.
Really not much in it between Cowan and Morris at all. Baldi and Lopez are having a scrap as well for fifth. Lopez forced to the very outside of the track there. But there you go, Baldi's not giving up either. They're both going to go 2 by 2. Lopez gets the break and Baldi looks on the outside. It isn't enough, and the Spaniard goes into fifth.
They're so close there. There was a big wobble on the outside for Baldi as he almost cannoned into the gravel trap on the outside line on the right-hand side of the circuit.
Cooper's gone off as well. Maybe just overshot a corner, but he's lost position to Ben Sapanic.
Yeah, big mistake for Alex Cooper, and uncharacteristic as well. Let's just double-check how he did it on the replay. Through the left-hander, no major problems. Through the right-hander, everything going well. He just got on the power a fraction of a second too soon. And that was all it took, just bogs down on the escape curb. And that's a big problem for Alex Cooper. But Risto Kappa has responded to Lee Morris and is starting to chase him once again. Baldy hasn't given up hope on Fran Lopez either.
No hope being given up here. Baldy's going to try and gain some time. Might have use of the DRS down the front straight. And obviously that's a key feature of Super League. You do get the DRS when you are within a second of the car ahead. It's so complicated, but simple at the same time. It trips me up on my words. But Baldy won't be tripping up. He's going to get the DRS. Lopez goes as defensive as you can, but it's not going to be enough because Baldy is going to ricochet around the outside. But then Lopez has the inside.
Oh, there's not enough grip. There's not enough grip on the outside, and Baldy has to bail out of the move. That's a real shame. He almost had it. Meanwhile, we've got side by side between Wopke Hoekstra and Dan Benefield further back as well. Hoekstra goes deep to the inside line. No problems there. Nothing doing. But Flo Geyer and Jarl Tyen are closing in quickly with Tobias Olsson making up some good ground here as well. Up to 14th position now. We need to keep an eye on him, actually, because he's made up an awful lot of time. Lucas Euler, by the way, has got up into 20th position. A minute off the leader. What a shame on his comeback.
Yeah, it just seemed to go wrong with that drive-through. Just made a slight error, and that's all it takes sometimes. But yeah, really, hopefully, for Euler, he can get back into it, shake the rust off, come back, and be stronger than ever. You know,
here comes Baldy again on Fran Lopez, as Jeff Fournier points out on YouTube. This is the second act of a 3-act play, at least, after Valencia, between Baldy and Lopez. They are absolutely on it again. After that fantastic grudge match on the streets of Valencia, they are now back in action again here at the Nurburgring. Baldy once again has a go for Lopez. Baldy has tried to get past. Oh, now he's chosen an alternate line. Lopez too defensive.
Oh!
Baldy's going to go for it. There's a little bit of a rub between them as they come through.
Oh,
Baldy's going to go right round the outside of the chicane and makes the move stick. What a move from Gergo Baldy.
Lopez responds by Pittman as well. He knows those tyres will be shot now. But what a move by Gergo that was. And you know what this is? This really is the Schumacher-Alonso 2006 of rivalries right here.
Yeah, it's going to continue a few more times before the end of this year is out, by the way things are currently stacked up. Lopez comes in, ditches the Ultra Softs. Surely he's got to go for the Super Softs now to avoid losing too much time. But we'll see what decision he makes as Alex Cooper is back in the pits again. So too Dan Benefield and Tobias Olsson. So Fran Lopez exits the pits, and no, he's on Ultras again.
Yeah, Ultras again, and that is an interesting one. Perhaps going for more stops here.
Well, the only driver who's not on either the Ultra Softs or the Super Softs is Gerrit de Vries. So I think he's just on plain softs by the look of it. Whereas we've got only Hoekstra. Oh no, sorry, Lopez is on the Super Softs. My apologies, it has just now corrected. So Lopez has decided to make the switch to Super Softs. The only two drivers left on the circuit now.
No, actually, you're wrong, Jake. He's on the regular softs. I think
he's on the regular.
That might just be race view or live timing. Not quite understanding. We have an ultra soft compound, but Lopez is indeed on the regular softs.
Right. Okay. So obviously, it's now time for tyre longevity. Rudy Van Buren is on lap 14. Now, how many laps? Well, he's just finished lap 14, so this is his 7th lap now. Well, no, this is going into his 8th lap on these tyres. If the Ultra Softs only lasted him, what, 7 laps before he made the pit stop, I would guesstimate he's probably got another 4 or 5 laps to go on this set if he's gone straight from the... well, is he on the Super Softs or is he on the plain Softs?
Well, you know, tyres can make a bit of a difference, you know, so, you know, if you know, the soft tyre, if you're going for longevity, if you can be as quick as the Supers, it's obviously worth going for the longevity, because you'll last longer and you won't have to make as many pit stops. So, you know, this could be interesting to see how this goes. Sven de Vries in the pits as well, so we'll see what he does.
I think most drivers will now be starting to think about the soft tyre as the way to go. Rudy Van Buren running around the circuit out in the lead, 10 seconds clear of teammate Risto Kappa, who is hanging on in front of Lee Morris now. Morris was giving him quite a strong challenge at one stage, but I think he seems to have backed out of the chase a little bit, maybe trying to make sure the tyres last a little bit longer. Fidek is 4th, Baldy is 5th, Ben Schupanek. I'm really impressed with Ben Schupanek this time. He's running consistently and solidly in 6th position. And that early stint, actually, from Wopke Hoekstra has definitely given him something to play with at the end of this race. 7th position for him at the moment. Flo Geyer has worked his way up into 8th place now. Jarl Tyen is 9th. Fran Lopez is in 10th position.
Yeah, Lopez 10th, and, well, on those softs, we'll have to see how he goes for sure. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how he does get on. Lopez, I've said many times about Fran in the past, he only seems to do maximum attack. He's like Tobias Olsen in that sense. He's either 100% or absolutely nothing. And, well, he will always give it his maximum, the young Spaniard. And, well, I've said it's his consistency sometimes that can let him down, but he definitely has the pace.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you were to compare Fran Lopez to anybody in the world of Formula One, it would probably be Carlos Sainz Jr., wouldn't it? He just only knows flat out and never any other form of speed. He doesn't do conservative. He just goes straight for the W every single time. And sometimes it works, sometimes it just lets you down. But he's done an absolutely cracking job so far. Now, Flo Gaia and Yaltayan, 8th and 9th position, but they need to pit again, I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, perhaps so. And, well, pit stops, obviously, you know, as we say, are going to come into it. So, obviously, if a driver's in front of someone but just hasn't pitted yet, you know, they're going to lose that place potentially because they're only in a gross position rather than net position. And, well, it sounds like something out of the stock market, but, you know, Rudy Van Buren, pretty much the top share at the moment in his race, leading it by a mile.
10 seconds in the early stages of proceedings. 25% of the race completed. We're on lap 16 of 60. Capit still holds just under a second's advantage to Lee Morris at the moment, while Flo Gaia makes a bid on Wopke Hoekstra down to the hairpin. Here he goes. It's going to be a nice, easy move as well. He's not going to give it too much hassle. Hoekstra is going to try and defend wherever he can, though. Gaia has to be very sensible on the inside line, give him enough space, and gets the place. No problem in the end.
Yeah, Hoekstra tried to resist there, but Florian Gaia just gave him a very German 9 there as he went straight through into P7. And his home Grand Prix, he'll want to do well here. And 7th is respectable, although I know he wants more.
So Rudy Van Buren leads this race by 11 seconds now to his teammate Risto Capit. Lee Morris is right there in 3rd. Another 10 seconds back, would you believe, is the 4th place man David Feidek. 23 seconds off the pace of Rudy Van Buren in only the first quarter of the race. That is the writing on the wall, Josh, if ever you've seen it.
Yeah, it's not really, you know, for the likes of Feidek, Baldy, Zupanek, Gaia, as Zupanek comes in, you know, it just goes to show how good Van Buren is. Let's not let that take away from Feidek's sport, though. As the reigning champion, he just needs to keep picking up these consistent results. Though you imagine the race wins are what he's after if he wants to keep his championship challenge alive. Though he has had a respectable season, and we know he's going to probably get better towards the end of it. He himself admits he's a bit of a slow burner. So 4th place at the halfway point of the season possibly throws open the potential for a win come season end.
I'm predicting a pit stop for Risto Capit any minute now because Lee Morris back of him again. And so now we're going to get this challenge once again. Lee Morris will want to put a little bit of the wind up on Risto Capit in this final section of the lap. If he can get past him heading into the chicane and throw Risto off his rhythm, that might just be enough to leapfrog him in the next set of pit stops. And Lee Morris will have DRS at this point. The gap was only 0.4 of a second, so he will be charging towards the chicane. If he wants to get a bandside move, he's going to try it. He's going to go right, not left. And Risto squeezes him into the inside line. Now he's going to be defensive on the inside. Right around the outside, Lee Morris places the car and nerves Risto Capit towards the pit, then charges across his line to get into the pits himself. Rudy Van Buren in at the same time. That was one of the most electric battles I've seen in the season this year.
And it only lasted about 20 seconds, Morris versus Capit there. Yeah, it almost looked like Morris and Capit made contact. Morris wasn't exactly, he was turning right a little bit, maybe going to go into the pit, but he had to cross across the curbing to get into the pit lane. That's how
Morris, look, Morris is out after Risto Capit. Morris has lost out time to Risto Capit in the pit lane. So all that hard work has just been undone as Feidek and Baldi come in.
Yeah, I think that is Vodbull working on the pit stop times there. That is development for you. That's what it does to get you out a second or 2 seconds ahead of your rivals.
Right, Flo Gaia, a late pit stopper, is now up to 4th position in front of his teammate David Feidek. Team strategy, surely. Flo Gaia must get out of the way of David Feidek at this point and see if he can impede Fran Lopez a touch, because Lopez obviously is on the same pit stop cycle as David Feidek, but not on the same as Flo Gaia. Yaltayan has just pitted in and has rejoined in 16th position just in front of Lucas Euler, but David Feidek now has his teammate right in front of him who has yet to pit. If Flo Gaia is just playing the percentages nicely here, he can allow his teammate through and consolidate on his position. Surely he'll do so as they come out of the hairpin this time by. Flo Gaia tucks into the inside line. He's not going to ease off the throttle, but he's going to make it look as if Feidek's going to really challenge him. I'm sure he's going to get the position taken here into the chicane.
Yeah, position perhaps going to go, and, well, this could be very, very interesting viewing. Fire and Guide acknowledging teammates right there. You know they get on so well. Brilliant team. They know what each other want, and they're always talking and listening to each other, always communicating.
Here we go.
Fydick is probably not going to have too much difficulty here. Guy's going to get me. Just let him straight through. That's teamwork for you.
Shut the door on Lopez! Shut the door on Lopez! Goodness me, that was close!
Shut, man!
Oh, that was very tight indeed.
That's why he didn't shut it. He planted the pit. That's why he didn't plant it.
Well, he shut it enough so that Fran Lopez has actually lost about 7 to 8 car lengths on David Fydick. So that is enough for the moment for David Fydick to be comfortable. So good team game there from Flo Gaia.
Well, this could be very interesting to see. Well, it's been a stunning 30% of the race so far. Gaia in, gets past by Sapanic now. And, well, Fydick into 4th, going to be chasing down Morris while being chased by Lopez. But really, the story of the race so far has just been Rudy Van Buren again. And, well, I'll tell you this in the comments. Ryan Ashley and RVB is killing it again. Well, I'll tell you this. You could call this race Ein Mord in Deutschland because Van Buren is killing it, isn't he?
But Lee Morris is still the man with a point to prove. He's just gone purple in the first sector. Nearly a second faster than Risto Capit in that first sector alone. He is obviously smarting from that pit stop because he really rubbed it in the face of Risto Capit with that cheeky maneuver. Don't even think about beating me today, Bucko. I've got you. And that slow pit stop will definitely have hurt the team's confidence. That will leave them very sore as a result of that. And Risto Capit has already responded with a 39.6 straight out of the bag in the second sector, faster than Lee Morris has managed. So they're toing and froing in terms of fastest sector times. But Lee Morris has definitely got a point to prove here against Risto Capit.
Morris does have a point to prove here. He's got to catch him and pass him. That's the only thing he'll consider acceptable at the moment. Knows he probably isn't going to catch Van Buren, so Capit the next best, and he knows he has to get this done in order to really make this race real worthwhile. Otherwise, it's going to be yet another race beaten by the Vod Bulls.
Right, that incident between Fydick, Gaia and Lopez has definitely hurt Fran Lopez's race because now Gergo Baldi has got the momentum and is starting to close up on Lopez again. So here we go. Ding, ding. Round 3. This is, of course, the rematch after what we saw earlier in the season. And now, this time, it's getting close again as they come off of turn 2. Lopez is defending like a kart racer on the inside line. Baldi just goes, right, I'll take you on the outside, mate. Thanks very much. See you later, alligator.
But then Lopez isn't having any of that either. He doesn't want to give up. This really is the battle that keeps on giving. And he's going to go for the switch back, but it fails. Lopez can't get through that time. But these two cannot stop battling. They're like Mayweather and McGregor. They just don't want to get out of each other's faces.
I love it. I absolutely love it when these two shindig on the circuit. It's an absolute barnstorm as Baldi and Lopez continue to trade paint around the racetrack. Lopez just hanging it out in there for 6th position now. The car squirreling about a little bit. Maybe he pushed it a little bit too hard into the braking zones. But my goodness me, that was fantastic to watch. Cooper now in 7th position, trying to gain ground on them. Zubinek is 8th, by the way. Oh, Florian Gaia has got Wopke Hoekstra up the inside line. And Hoekstra, has he got past him? Or is that Flo Gaia trying to overtake him? Well, he's certainly having another crack on the right side. Hoekstra sends him to the right. There is grip on the outside, but not enough once Hoekstra shuts the door. This is very close battle. Well, Gaia got up the inside of Hoekstra initially at the bottom of the hill through the hairpin, but then had to back out of it. Gaia now should have DRS and should be able to make a good advance onto Hoekstra up the inside. Hoekstra proving to be a harder challenger to... Oh, there's contact! He just clips the left front as Gaia goes through, asserting his authority on the incident there. Now, that won't be damage for Wopke Hoekstra, but he will be smarting a little bit from that. I don't think he'll be best pleased.
Probably not. He did have to cut over the chicane there, but either way, Gaia's through Benefield pits now and drops down the order. Obviously in 14th place at the moment, but yeah, Wopke is going to want to get that position back. Flo Gaia now chasing Sven de Vries in that storm car. Sven, we haven't really talked much about Sven. He's been a bit low-key race for Sven. In 9th place, though, very respectable on his debut. Let's not forget that.
Absolutely. Lucas Euler's return, we were bigging him up, but Sven de Vries, he has actually been quietly getting on with this, not getting in anybody's way, just steadily making progress, and now he's causing a bit of a roadblock to Flo Gaia, which is going to impede him to Wopke Hoekstra, which is going to impede them all to Jarl Tyen. So this could be a really interesting four-way scrap. Forget Rudy Van Buren out front. He's checked out. He's in Austria. He's that far ahead. But through into the hairpin, Florian Gaia is desperately trying to get past Sven de Vries because he knows that if he doesn't, Wopke Hoekstra is going to be back on him like a bad habit.
Now, you see, this is the thing about these guys.
Oh, up on the curb for Gaia,
That was super close from Gaia there. This is what I'm talking about, though. Wopke Hoekstra's caught up because these two are busy with themselves. They've gotten so involved with themselves, they totally forgot Hoekstra. They've thrown him out on the doorstep. Now he's barged the door open, and he's going to go for both of them.
Here goes Gaia round the outside. That's going to be brave if he can keep the car flowing through. He's just about found the space. And
here comes
Hoekstra. Hoekstra's going to get through on Sven de Vries as well. Oh, contact! I think he just nudged the back of Gaia's car and that spat the car sideways, and de Vries is driven into there. De Vries pits in, and I think Tobias Olsen is in behind him as well. That's a big mistake. Both drivers are in together.
Well,
Lopez is in, but de Vries and Olsen, they're going to stack in the pits, and that's a mistake.
Yeah, that is going to be a mistake. Olsen is going to come in right behind Sven. And he's going to come in here and... Oh, hello! They've gone beside each other. Now, I think that's illegal, actually. That is parallel pit stops. We saw it with the Hawkeyes before. One nudged the other out of the way. That's not illegal. But I think what Olsen has done is illegal. He's gone to the side of de Vries. They're in parallel. And I think that's a contravention of GPV rules right there.
Yeah, I think that is an illegal move. I was just watching back on the replay to see if Hoekstra did actually make contact with Flo Gaia in that incident. It's too close to call. He used a lot of curb on the inside line to avoid the impact, but I don't know whether there was actually a nudge between the two of them. Now, as a result of that, Jarl Tyen has got Fran Lopez breathing down his neck as Lopez has just pitted. Hoekstra is a few corners behind, well, a corner behind them, actually. And then we've got Sven de Vries and Tobias Olsen, who are now surely going to be in the wars with the stewards over that one.
Yeah, that is, well, we saw, as I say, we saw this with either Wouters or Hawkeye at Valencia, one behind the other, pushing them ahead. That was deemed to be legal. I don't think the move that we've just seen there was legal, though. Andreas Wouters said he still moved after Sven moved out and said he didn't start the pit work. But, you know, side by side either way, that is dubious at the very minimum.
Gerrit de Vries out of the race, I'm afraid to say, as, there's been a bit of an incident between Benefield and Kilk. Just want to double check that one. Benefield and Kilk, I think, have had a little bit of a wheel bagging incident. Benefield right on the back of right Kilk as they got to the chicane. The Kernow car gets very close, and he suddenly realises he's going to have an opportunity onto the inside. Right Kilk turns into his line. Benefield overshoots the tiniest bit, but it's enough to get through. I thought there was contact. There isn't. Benefield pulling off the flukiest of overtakes there.
Yeah, well, you know, an overtake's an overtake, whichever way you slice it. You know, if I can gain a place, I'll gain a place, regardless of the circumstances. Don't of intentionally wrecking someone, of course, but yeah, I'll get a place if I can take it. You know, I'll take what I can get.
So Van Buren out in front, 14.3 clear of Risto Capit, who still has just over a second on Lee Morris. Morris is still not really able to make any inroads into Risto Capit. Jeff Fournier writes, he put his car on the right side of Valencia at Valencia Hawkeye, question mark. Do you talk about Wouters at Valencia?
Yeah, that's what I was on about. And yeah, I was talking about Wouters Automotive. That was the team that did it. And oh, well, I just had word from Chris Williamson, actually. I've been querying with this. It said it looked close, but Tobias didn't start the pit stop till Sven was gone. So they may just have gotten away with this. So I'm sure they'll be looking at it.
Yeah, well, definitely that kind of incident needs to be up for review. And I have a feeling that if there is no penalty given, we'll definitely want clarification on the rule, if not a penalty. Cooper now pits and relinquishes Flo Gaia into 7th position. Tyen has got Lopez on his heels. Wopke Hoekstra not far away. This is a good run, actually, for the consistency factor of Adonis. Both of their cars very close together, Lopez and Hoekstra, both of them with genuine pace. Benefield has obviously overtaken his former team there, having got past the Red Archer of Right Kilk. So up into 13th position. Alex Cooper filters back out. Where does he filter back out? Into 13th position in front of Right Kilk. So this is a frustrating day at the office for Alex Cooper. We know he's got the ability to go out there and win races, but the car just isn't giving him what he needs to be having today.
Yeah, it really is just not quite going his way at the moment, and well, that can be the story of some drivers in Superleague. Sometimes they just don't have their race, but either way, I'm sure everyone who's still going is going. As Gerrit de Vries is out of the race, I've just noticed as well, we've got 20 cars running now. Yep,
Sven de Vries is starting the attack on Maciej Mlinek. So let's see if these to returnees to GPVWC Super League. Mlanek is still a relative rookie, of course, having played the super sub role in the early part of the season to replace David Francic, who, of course, he's replacing again here. Sven de Vries is still trying to make a good impression on his comeback. He's had a good run relative to where his position has been. So he's now battling away with Mlanek. What's the next battle on the circuit? Well, Zupanek has got Flo Gaia right underneath him. This will be interesting into the first corner.
Wow, this will be interesting. You got Gaia in 7th, Zupanek in 6th. This will be a close one. Look, and of course, Gaia is going to get DRS too. So it'll be pretty much a case of charge straight through. Will you Florian Gaia, the German, going for 6th in his home Grand Prix, and the Nordstein driver is through, and he's not going to get any competition with Zupanek until the next corner at least. So into 6th goes Gaia.
Yeah, that was nice and straightforward. It looked for a moment as though Zupanek might push him a little bit further to the pit lane, but then he suddenly decided against it. You know what? If I risk too much into this battle, there's a chance I could actually start destroying my own tyres. He actually thought better of it and decided to just let him go there. Meanwhile, Sven de Vries and Maciej Mlanek are having that battle right now, and Sven de Vries has got through.
De Vries through, yes, into 15th place. So into the points again goes Sven. Mlanek down at the 16th. This has been a bit of a disappointing race from Mlanek, actually. We you would have expected perhaps better from the pole. But, coming into Super League back again with Street Fighter, he's not going to be happy with his 16th when he had some great results in the start of the season.
That's very true. He kind of came in as a bit of a whirling dervish. I mean, obviously you can state that the rules for this season have changed. Everybody had a fresh car underneath them. The rules were different. He had the advantage of running in the Formula Challenge 2 nights before in Melbourne, so he had that little bit of extra experience of the track. He was in a good zone. Everybody was fairly new to things, but obviously he hasn't been running a full campaign because he's been trying to win the Formula Challenge Championship, Maciej Mlanek. So from his point of view, he's not had the same time in the car now that everybody else has had over the course of the season, so you could argue that it's balanced itself out. Mlanek's still doing a fair job, but when you consider that everybody else has been racing these cars all through the season, that stacks out about fair.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he won't be happy with the 16th, but he's getting on with it either way, hoping to get into the points, and we know how good Maciej is. Fantastic driver, and definitely Super League candidate for next year, but maybe this is not being his race as Zupanek pits.
So, the order at present, Van Buren in the lead from Capet in 2nd, Morris 3rd, Fardek 4th, Baldi is 5th, Flo Gaia is 6th, but I think that's about right now, with Jarl Tyen in 7th position. Lopez is 8th. Hoekstra is 9th and Cooper is 10th. So if anything, Flo Gaia and Jarl Tyen are still relatively into the top 10. I think they're going to have to pit a little bit longer. Ben Zupanek, by the way, has pitted and dropped behind Dan Benefield and Nick Rowland, who's in 11th position now, trying to close up on fellow Brit Alex Cooper. But some very interesting challenges, as again, this battle between Wright Kilk and Sven de Vries just will not budge, and they're still tussling. Kilk has got back through. Sven de Vries is now on the attack and on the offensive once again.
Well, this is just the cash cow
Morris
this race, isn't
Morris
it?
in.
Oh, Morris in, yes.
Morris is
Crucially, he is into the pits now, and he comes in. He's not changing compound, stays on the super softs, but he'll come out. I suspect Fidek will give him a run here.
Well, I wonder, is Lee Morris actually trying to jump Risto Capet? Because the last time when they had equal pit stops, they did not have a fair crack at it. Now, Morris is going to rejoin behind David Fidek, but he's going to be on a fresher set of compounds. He should be able, in theory, to go faster than Risto Capet on the old softs. Now, are they trying to... surely Lee Morris and the Mad Cape team are trying to leapfrog him in this pit stop now, because this is an important one to take into account. If they can make this work, then Lee Morris could springboard the Estonian and move into 2nd place.
Yeah, and second, what would it mean to David Fidek to get into 2nd place? Reigning champion, wanting a 2nd. He's had some good results this season, but he's got Morris right there. I think he'll want to work with Morris, but Morris won't let him. He's just gone straight through.
That'll do fine. Thanks very much, David. I'll take that. And it's exactly the same time Sven de Vries has made the move on Wright Kilk. Michael Ayers has dropped a couple of places, I think, as well, because Maciej Mlanek is now battling away with Sven de Vries.
Fidek actually lifted off. He let Morris through there. I think he's planning, is David Fidek, on getting a bit of a lift from Morris here. He's going to chase him rather than defend.
Well, either that Either that or Feidek has already resigned himself to the fact that he's not in a race for the top 3 today. He just needs to get on with his own race and look after his own tyres, not get into a squabble with Lee Morris as Capit pits. Capit pits. Now Van Buren doesn't pit this time. So Van Buren's able to make the tyres last a bit longer. I can absolutely guarantee Morris is going to take second.
Fight again too. That's why he left it off. He didn't want to fight him when he was coming in. That's why.
Morris is going to get second here. They've done it. They've leapfrogged Risto Capit. Look, beautiful. Lee Morris storms through. They've only just managed it, but Lee Morris is through in a second. That's why he pitted a lap early. Good boy, Lee.
Right, now this begs the question. 34 seconds in about 30 laps. Can he do it?
Well, you've got to remember that Rudy Van Buren has still got to pit, and he's actually just been struggling to lap right Kilk. So Van Buren still needs to pit. He'll emerge about 14 seconds ahead of Lee Morris by my math. But he is, of course, gaining ground on a fresher set of tyres. The difference is Lee Morris is going to have tyres that are 2 laps older than Rudy Van Buren, because Van Buren has made this lead work for him and stretched the tyre life a little bit. But we know how good Rudy Van Buren is at this. Lee Morris, I think, is aware of the fact that Rudy Van Buren just has stronger pace today, but he knows in his mind that he can beat Risto Capit. He can do that. So he's going to go for it. In comes Rudy Van Buren.
Yeah, Van Buren, and this is going to give Morris a little bit of crucial time here. And, well, RVB pits now. He's going to be pretty much in a direct scrap with Morris from now on in, you believe. Capit's probably within DRS range, but I don't suspect he's going to get the move done just yet. Because Risto still has to pit as well, and he's too far back. Van Buren comes in, he's staying on the ultra softs. Morris will gain time, so now it's a question of can Lee Morris make enough of a gap to give Van Buren a scare?
Well, can he hang on in front of a very motivated Risto Capit? Vodbull are not prepared to take that one lying down. Surely now Capit will get DRS this time on Lee Morris. Morris, though, on slightly hotter rubber, but Capit is on fresher rubber. So if he's not going to get him here, he's certainly going to have another opportunity through the lap. Lee Morris has put a fast one on Risto Capit. That's to make up for the little overtaking move that was lost in the pit stops earlier. So now Lee Morris has an opportunity. And I think Lee Morris was not actually intending that pit stop earlier on in the cycle when he managed to make the move on Risto Capit, but he saw that Capit was pitting and knew that he had to pit with him to exacerbate how much time he was going to lose. So Lee Morris made that pit stop at the last possible minute to charge across to come into the pits, because he saw Risto pitting and went, right, you're not going to undercut me, we're going to pit it together, I'm going to lose as little time as possible. Now he's got the upper hand because he's made the undercut, but Risto Capit still is in a vodball.
Yeah, and that's one of the strongest cars in the field compared to the Mad Cape, which is not the strongest by any means, but Morris has been doing brilliant things with it this season. You know, you got to think if he had as good a car as Van Buren, could he be up there with him? That's the question, but we'll have to see. Is Morris just trying to gap cap it, but it's not working. The Estonian's actually closing in, about half a second in it now. Yeah,
this will be Mike Pittman on the radio going, come on, we can have him, let's go get him. So Risto Capit is on the charge to Lee Morris. The only way to beat him today is to try and get one over on him on the track, and Risto Capit knows it because Lee Morris has pulled a fast one on Capit in terms of the pit stops. Now Capit will have one lap of fresher rubber, but Lee Morris now has track position. Watch this into the first corner, because Morris is going to have the opportunity to defend. Capit's going to have DRS, but he's going to catch him very late down the straight. So will he make a cheeky maneuver into the first corner? No, I don't think he's going to be close enough to make the move, but he's definitely going to put Lee Morris under some pressure. Maybe when they come into the Vidal chicane at the end of the lap, that will be another opportunity to get him.
Yeah, perhaps another opportunity going to materialise there, and well, we'll see if it does. But this is a close run race. Lee Morris, as we know on GPV broadcast, has spoken candidly about how he struggles with the tyres. Just told us to keep them going. So, you know, this is the thing. If he can't make those tyres last as long as Capit, he's going to run into problems.
We've got a good battle for 11th place as Hoekstra makes the move on the inside of Mlanek and Jarl. Oh, the contact! Contact! Jarl has gone around!
Oh no, that's bad.
That's a disaster for Jarl, and there really wasn't much he could do about that one. We're going to watch it again. Jarl just deciding to follow on Wopke Hoekstra's move. He had the line on the inside line. I was not entirely sure Mlanek was prepared to give way. Mlanek keeps the car parked on the outside line. Tyen is in front, but Mlanek has turned in. The front wing has tagged the rear right of Jarl car, and that's caused a collision. Now, I have a feeling that Mlanek is going to get a penalty for that, and that's a real shame if so.
How so? He was in no position to give way. He was right on the inside of the corner. Short of cutting across it completely, there's nothing he could have done.
Good argument there, I suppose. Yeah, Mlinak not really in a position to do anything about it, but obviously it's going to be assessed. Yaltayan on the inside line goes for the overtake. There was definitely contact. Yaltayan does turn into the corner, not giving Mlinak enough space. But the argument that Yaltayan is going to have, of course, is that, well, he just hit me. He just ran me off the road. But obviously, racing drivers in the heat of the moment can't see all four corners of their car.
Yeah, I mean, he was right on the inside. It looked like Tyan came over on him, so the opposite was true to me. But it will have to be reviewed by the race stewards. I think it's going to be an interesting point. But Tyan's not going to let it take it down. He barrels down the inside of the pole, but then loses the back end. But he's gotten through either way.
That's very nearly Formula 1 stock car racing into the chicane there as Tyan decides enough is enough. I'm having you back, sunshine. And he gets the place up into 11th position with a lot of work to do to catch up on Wopke Hoekstra again, who's now 5 seconds up the road as a result of that incident. But if Tyan can have that spin and close up on Mlinak in one lap, is that dead tyres for Mlinak? What's the problem with the car?
Either that or Tyan stopped sandbag and he's decided to get the lad out and absolutely hammer it to the end now. I don't know what's going on, but Jarl has just gotten straight back into 11th and Machi won't be happy about that. But we'll see what happens with the incident, obviously. But, well, speaking of racing, Captain Morris, ding ding, round 2.
Yep, it's going to be an interesting one because Kappa is going to gain a lot of ground on the DRS. He will have DRS. He is under a second further back. So now he's got a chance to gain some traction, gain some time. If he gets a good final chicane and a good final turn, he might get the opportunity into turn 1 to have another crack at Lee Morris. But Morris is soaking up the pressure at the moment. He's not allowing the Estonian to get under his skin as we go past the half-distance mark. We're on lap 32 of 60. It's Van Buren in the lead from Morris in second. Capit, Vidic, Baldi, Lopez, Cooper, Gaia, Zubadek and Hoekstra is your top 10 at the moment with Yaltayan and Machi Mlinak in 12th position, Tobias Olsen 13th, Lucas Euler is now in 14th, and the final points position, Dan Benefield.
Yeah, final points position for Benefield, and I'll tell you who's the happiest man in the world right now. It's none other than our favourite Mike Pittman, who rejoins us in the comments box from the pit wall of the Vodbull team. Mike, 1-3 at the moment, not really much going wrong, is there?
Well, we'd like it to be one little bit better, but
of course,
going rather well so far, must be said. Yeah, small little bit with the pits there, but we're quietly confident. Lee seems to have changed his strategy to try and cover us by pitting early, so we think the race will come back to us anyway.
Yeah, in the long run, you might think it might be coming back to you. And, well, Bristol giving very good chase to Lee at the moment. How is he doing on the tyres front? Because we talked about Morris maybe not being able to hold his tyres for as long as Bristol. So is he okay on the preservation front?
Yeah, Lee seems to have done a bit of work in the off-season. He's doing a bit better than we saw before the summer break, it must be said, on his tyres as well. Because I think he probably had a bit more life in his tyres before he had to pit that time round. I think he pitted a lap earlier than he would have done. Bristol's sticking to our strategy. It was he's quietly confident with his tyres. You do see we are running to the limit on them. They get down to about 35% left, something like that, before we pit them.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Rudy's just doing what Rudy does as well. You know, dominating the race. Probably not what we probably could have expected. Nothing else, but having a great race, isn't he?
Oh, he's absolutely fantastic. Once you get the clean air, it's great to be able to run his own race now. So he's driving very smoothly, conserving those tyres. You know, as just shown by his fastest lap of a 33.3. The pace is still there if he wants it, but he's just keeping it back a little bit to get those extra couple of laps. Risto hasn't quite got that option in that he's in a pretty good big, well, what's turning out to be a titanic battle for 60 laps with Morris. So it has to be a little bit more on it and can't be quite as... you can get drawn into Morris's style, which is a lot more aggressive and wears those rear tyres particularly. He seems quite tail happy.
Tyre life, Mike. Is the strategy working, or have you had to adapt things a little bit?
No, we've stuck to exactly where we were. We've got... we actually extended Rudy's stop that time round by an extra lap because he was conserving the tyres quite well. We knew we had to do it a couple of times somewhere, so we've got one of those 11 lap stints out the way. It's looking like a 5-stop race.
Okay.
At the moment, we may have to, if Morris keeps up this, we may have to look at Risto potentially, but at the moment, I'm expecting Morris to. He's going to have to run long now because he's done a short stint. So.
Probably going to hurt him in the long run, you suspect then. Well, great talking to you, Mike, of course, as ever, and good luck to you and the Vodbull boys for the rest of this race.
Thank you very much. Keep it up, chaps. It's been great listening into the bits that I can in between times.
I'm sure we will. And I tell you what, we got another team manager we can interview as well, Jake. We get 2 for the price of 1 today, because we can welcome Andreas Wouders to the booth as well.
Hello, good evening.
Great to have you.
How are things at the moment, Andreas?
Well, mixed feelings, really. On the one hand, we're showing great pace, but especially for y'all, it's not all going very smoothly.
Yeah, it's been an interesting and up and down race for Jarl. He's got himself into a couple of incidents. I mean, some of them you could argue, obviously, he's trying to go for overtaking moves and 1 or 2 of them haven't worked, but he's also got himself into incidents with other drivers who have just been keeping him in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's now just got out of the way of Alex Cooper. How do you assess the way that his race is run in comparison to Gergo?
We knew from the start, of course, when he had to start from the back of the grid, that he had a lot of work cut out for him, but he's really been showing that it was the right idea to really get him into the team involved in the second half of the season, because he shows the pace, and Daniel also was part of that decision, and he is now focusing more on managing the team and making sure the guys have everything they need. But it's quite disappointing to then see that you're making quite clean moves, what I could see from it, and the contacts with the Street Fighter cars were just, unfortunate, and I don't think you all deserve that.
Yeah, well, of course, a decent race for you so far, Gergo in 5th, and, well, obviously, further down the order, you've got Jarl and Lemtu, who's had a couple of problems this race, but it seems to be a good comeback from Gergo, at least, definitely showing his true form.
Yes, I'm quite happy. We're gonna be in the points with both cars, so it's very nice to see, and as always, Gergo is just faultless in every way we know, but I'm really impressed by the pace of Jarl as well, so that's good for us, and I'm sure we can take this forward in the next races.
Awesome.
Of course, to see you back up the front of the field is great as well. So obviously, for the rest of the season, we'll hope you are there. But just from a more general perspective, how has the season been for you and your team so far? Because obviously, you came in last year, 2015, 2016. You've had 2 good years, obviously coming in then. 2017, 3rd year in Super League. How's it treating you in general?
Our 2nd year is definitely better than the first one. We just know that we have everything more under control than last year. Last year was our 1st year in Super League, and it was a bit of a mess in some regards. A lot of drivers and not a lot of points. We were still happy with the result for the first season, but now we can see that the structure in the team is what we want it to be. And now we can just work forward with the people that we have involved, and I'm quite happy with that.
Great stuff, and well, thank you very much for joining us, Andreas. Thank you, Mike Pittman, as well, for joining us. 2 great team managers having a chat with Jake.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Andreas. Lee Morris has pitted in at a critical moment. Again, a lap ahead of Risto Capit. So he's hoping to continue this trend and just stay 1 lap ahead of the game. Now, obviously, what that means for the rest of the race, Josh, is that if he can keep that kind of pace steady with Risto Capit, he will be ahead of him with a set of tyres that's 1 lap older than the Estonian. Now, if Risto Capit can just stretch the tyres an additional lap, he will probably have the advantage going into the latter stages of the race when Lee Morris is trying to protect the tyres and preserve them, whereas Risto Capit will have slightly newer tyres on his car. So that could end up being quite an interesting one. I think we seem to have lost Josh Anderson for a moment. We'll hopefully get him back in. Fidek is 4th position with Gergo Baldi in 5th place. Gaia 6th from Lopez, Cooper, Tyan and Hoekstra. Hoekstra is into the pit lane for a change of compounds. Jupinek, or hopefully a change of tyres. We don't know about change of compounds as yet. Benefield behind Jupinek comes into the pits. So the Kerno boys separated for a moment. Nick Rowland and Sven de Vries, 13th and 14th from Machim Lanek and Wright Kilk. All of these guys, by the way, have been lapped. Our race leader, Rudy Van Buren, is about to lap Ben Schupanek, who is in 10th position. That is how strong Rudy Van Buren has been in the race today. Now, where's Risto Capit? He is not coming into the pit. So, as I predicted, Risto Capit is going to try and get the car a little bit further into the stint to give him an extra lap of tyres more than Lee Morris. So he's going to try and deviate away from Lee Morris's strategy. Now, that's going to be interesting for the Estonian, because what this means effectively is that Lee Morris will end up with a car that is on older tyres than Risto Capit come the end of the race. So the Estonian is going to have the upper hand. Rudy Van Buren leading then. Risto Capit second. Morris third. From Fidek, Baldi, Gaia, Lopez, Cooper, Tyen and Jupanek. All of those guys are on the lead lap. Jupanek is not going to be on the lead lap for long because Rudy Van Buren is behind him on the road. Now Risto Capit has lost another second or so to Lee Morris. He's got to be careful how much time he actually does lose to him. Oh, Risto Capit makes a mistake on the exit of the hairpin. Risto Capit makes a mistake on the exit of the hairpin, and that is absolutely fatal for his chances of second position. So Risto Capit trying to stretch the tyres out that little bit longer, and he's made a mistake on the exit of the hairpin. He locked up into the initial part of the corner, and as he gets back on the power, he just catches the curb on the exit, gets on the throttle, and the car snaps away. Great recovery from Risto, but that will have cost him a good 3 seconds in that maneuver. So Risto Capit definitely needing to make a pit stop this time but the Estonian under massive pressure to beat Lee Morris today, and he's going to stretch it even further. He's going to stay out an additional lap. So Risto Capit staying out even longer in this race. That's really interesting. Tom Parker making the assessment on YouTube. He won't beat Lee out of the pits, and I completely agree. But the question is, if he's going to be able to keep the tyres lasting another longer, is he going to be able to hang on to the... Or is he going to be able to take second position off him later into the race? Or has that mistake cost him any chance of second place? Tom Parker says he wouldn't have beaten Lee out even before that wild moment. Fidek in, Baldi in. Flo Gaia will not be in on this lap. He continues on, and I think he's going to get past Fidek on the way through. Lopez 7th, Cooper 8th, Tyen 9th, and Jupanek in 10th place. Still waiting for Josh Anderson to make his way back into the commentary booth. I think he stepped out to have a closer look at something. Oh! Ad nauseam in the first corner! Goodness me, that was close. Fidek and Gaia needed to get out of each other's way there. Gaia does not give Fidek any problems in the end. Fidek is able to slip up the inside of his teammate Flo Gaia and take that 4th position again. Jarl Tyen makes his way into the pits in 9th place. But Rudy Van Buren leads the way. Capit is now only 10 seconds in front of Lee Morris, so clearly Lee Morris is going to beat him out of the pits. But with tyres that are going to be 3 laps newer than Lee Morris come the end of this race, I have a feeling that Risto Capit is only going to need to pit one more time. Lee Morris tries to pit one more time. That could cause an issue. Risto Capit comes in, and again, he pits before Rudy Van Buren does. I think Van Buren has only got 2 more stops to make in this race. Capit likewise. Morris may have to stretch that to an additional pit stop. Capit now in the pits, and I think he'll only need to pit one more time. Morris goes through, but I think Morris is going to need to pit twice more. So that's going to be an interesting one. I think Capit, although he's made that mistake by stretching those tyres a little bit further into the race, he may just be able to get this one on. Although, of course, Lee Morris may decide, do you know what? I'll take that second pit stop and do, with 4 laps to go maybe, a set of ultra softs and absolutely hammer home Risto Capit, and he might beat him anyway. So a really interesting challenge. This is going to be for second place. It is the most fascinating battle on the circuit at the moment. Fidek in 4th place, in front of Flo Gaia. Lopez pits behind Gergo Baldi. Baldi running well in position at the moment. The cars run their way around the circuit. I'm going to go on board with a lap of the circuit with Bent Jupanek just to ride around the circuit and get a feel for the Nurburgring. So he goes up through the gears, across the start-finish line, up into 7th gear. He'll go all the way to 8th as they go towards the braking zone. Changes down. He's got somebody to his right-hand side there. That is, I believe, Wopke Hoekstra. Oh, no, it's Fran Lopez, who's running side by side with him, I do believe. No, sorry. But Jupanek makes his way through the second corner into turn 3. No curb on the inside line. Just gets a little bit of correction up to 3rd gear. Is patient on the throttle. Back up through the gears. And then as he gets to 7th gear, he then drops 3 gears to 4 through the left-hander, down the slope, drops another 2 into 2nd on the right-hander. Nice correction. Let's listen to the engine. Gets as far as 7th gear before changing down 5 to 2nd gear through the right-hander, back on the power. Little bit of a correction there from Superleague. Takes that left-hander blip of the throttle, but still remains in 6th, just enough to keep the car under control. Up to the left-hander. We hear there's a good battle going on between teammates between Olsen and Euler, but I just want to stay with this lap of Superleague until the end of it. Down the straight, through the right flick, up through the gears again, and then down to the chicane. Just watch the braking. Such a big braking distance and plenty of curb, both on the way in and on the way out. And down to the final turn, through the final corner. Got to be so careful when you get on the throttle. You've got to be so patient, then on the throttle and then nail it. But you're about 2/3 of the way through the apex before you can really hammer the throttle. Now, this battle between Olsen and Euler, they've just been lapped by Rudy van Buren. And for the moment, Olsen has been able to get clear of Lucas Euler as the battle continues. But some really good racing from these guys all the way through the field at the moment. Jarl Tyen is in 11th place, currently battling it out with Wopke Hoekstra. And Hoekstra is hanging on to that position for the moment. But Jarl Tyen is wanting to have another go at him. Now, Hoekstra was not the one who caused the issue for Jarl Tyen as far as he's concerned, but he will want to get through. Sideline for turn 5. Hoekstra keeps it to the outside. Tyen now on the outside through the right-hander. Plenty of curb, plenty of space, good respect between these two, and Tyen is through for the moment, but Hoekstra gets back onto his slipstream, tries to throw it back up the inside. No, you don't. Great bit of driving from Jarl Tyen. That was really nicely handled there from Jarl. He gave him plenty of room. He was not about to cause him any issues. He gave him plenty of space to make the overtaking move, and that was very nicely done. Now, Morris, as a result of the pit stops, is now a good 9 seconds in front of Risto Capit for 2nd position, but let's not forget the fact that Risto Capit has made his tyres last a little bit longer, and by my maths, Risto Capit could stretch this set of tyres enough that he only needs to make 1 more pit stop, whereas Lee Morris, I'm certain, is going to need to make 2. But if Morris leaves the 2nd pit stop as long as possible and then puts it on ultra softs, he may have enough time to make that happen. Now, there's a yellow flag in sector 3. I'm not sure what's happened there, and it's quite a lot. Oh, it's Florian Gaia! Florian Gaia's blown the engine! Florian Gaia's engine is blown. Car on fire. What a disaster for Florian Gaia. So Gaia's race ends as he comes down to the Vidal chicane. The engine has blown, and all that hard work has been undone.
What a thing to come back to.
Oh, yeah, well done, Josh. You came back at exactly the right moment, because poor Flo Gaia, the engine just goes bang right at the end of the long straight. He's come through the right kink, and the engine has just gone belly up. Smoke coming out of the back of the car before it goes, and unfortunately the car is on fire and his race is over. That's a real shame.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Gaia. Maybe, oh yeah, maybe it was just, was the smoke coming out before it? Yeah, I know the engine went, obviously, but yeah, maybe just, I don't know what happened with Gaia. It just, yeah, it just went. I don't know what happened there. Probably just an engine failure, but that is rare for that Martix unit to go like that.
And obviously that could be a slight concern then for Fidek, because he's got exactly the same power unit. Maybe not as big an issue, because I'm fairly sure that Fidek has got a newer engine than Flo Gaia. But Alex Cooper comes into the pits from what is now P6.
Well, I tell you this, Gaia came in with a 22% engine, and number 15 Vodbull actually has a 23, and that's Risto Capit, so he should be getting concerned right now. And number 6 Red Archer, and that's Red Kilk, he might be having cause for concern too.
Yeah, if anybody's in the 22-23% mark of engines, they've got to be very careful about it. Obviously be on the back foot anyway. Their strategy in terms of how long they're going to make these tyres work does have a good chance of working. Risto Capit, by my math, Josh, I was just saying while he disappeared out of the commentary box, Risto Capit's pit stop strategy, by my math, if he's careful on the tyres, he only needs to make 1 more pit stop, whereas Lee Morris, I'm sure, will have to make 2.
Wow, that might be crucial as well, because he's going to lose more time in the pits, and that might put Cabot ahead. Oh,
Benefield's engine's gone. Benefield's engine's gone now as well. Smoke out of the back of the car, and he pulls off.
That is a weird one. Benefield's, yeah. Oh no, that wasn't an engine failure. That was error. His car just went into neutral and first gear slammed down. Gearbox threw the revs up. Benefield's out through a technical problem.
That's a disaster. It's easy to get the wrong. It's easy to change down to neutral when you're in the concentration mode. Accidentally go down instead of up. That's a real shame. What a disaster. And unfortunately, that's done enough to kill the engine. So it's game over for Dan Benefield. And that's a real disappointment for him, actually. He's been having a reasonable race all the way through. He's looked steady. He's looked calm and composed. And it's all gone awry. Now, Jarl Tyan is on the back of Ben Schupanek. This is going to be the next close battle on track.
Yeah, next big battle. Zupanek versus Tyan. These two going to go hammer and tongs at each other.
Sven de Vries is going for right Kilk again. These two still battling. And Roland's gone into the back of right Kilk.
Oh, no. Oh, dearie, dearie me, Nick. That's not what to be doing, sunshine. Didn't want to be doing that. I was just, yeah, let's see. Came into the chicane. Boof! Straight into the back of Kilk and spins himself around. And, well, that is bad news for Nick Rowland.
He saw that de Vries had got past Kilk and he suddenly realised, oh, I've missed my braking point. I'm so busy paying attention to them that I'm just going to go straight into the back. That is completely, unfortunately, Nick Rowland's fault. As Lee Morris pits.
Yeah, Morris in. Cabot's gone through in a second, as we thought he might. And he's gone through there.
So Morris rejoins, and he is, well, Cabot is through turn 3. Cabot's got an engine blow!
Oh!
Cabot's out! Cabot is out!
Boom goes the dynamite! That car is an Estonian bonfire right now! I told you you'd have to watch it! And that Valiant unit has gone bang!
Risto Capit out of the race, and he will be absolutely fuming at that one. Morris will not have to worry about a challenge for second place now. David Feidick is a good 12 seconds down the road from him. He's not going to be close enough to challenge. Risto Capit is out of this race, and he will be absolutely sick to his stomach. When was the last time a Vodbull had a mechanical failure like that?
Not in this season at all, Jake. Now we've had Capit out, we've had Geyer out. Anyone who's in the 23% mark is going to be absolutely worried now. We're talking car 62 as well. Morris is only 29.
Well, that's interesting. Morris may not make the end of this race either. He's got to be careful.
Kilk's got a 29 as well, and that seems to be the lowest it goes. But Morris is second. David Feidick, if Morris Engines goes, and this would be 3, this would, I think, actually be 2 Martex, 2 Valiant failures and a Martex. David Feidick could go up to second.
Yeah, Feidick just minding his own business, doing what he does best, just pounding the car around the circuit. No problem. I'm not going to get into anybody's grill. I'm just hanging out here, pushing the car as fast as I think it can go, as fast as it needs to go. Everybody else can overcook it, but I'm just going to keep pounding around. And he may be a minute behind Van Buren, but he's on the podium. Need we say more?
Need we say more? And Lee Morris is going to be running scared now. He only has 7% more on that engine than the other two, and they've just blown. So it's going to be touch and go with Morris's engine now.
14 more laps to go as well. I'm not so sure Lee Morris is going to be able to handle this. I didn't think it was going to be that big an issue with drivers with that lower percentage having engine issues, but clearly these new cars, we're still learning about them as the season goes, of course. Wow. But, yeah, a big shock in that race. A big shock there as Lovett gets out of the way of our race leader, Rudy Van Buren, who continues his march with only 15 laps to go.
And he has a fresh engine as well. He doesn't need to worry about engine failures. But we have Mike Pittman with us. Mike, this must be devastating for Bristol Capit to go out. Had a 23% engine, maybe just not enough life in it.
So if Lee Morris is running low. He started on 29%. Who else is low?
It's really just him and Kilk we need to worry about at the moment, I think. But yeah, we do have Mike Pittman with us, of course. And Mike, devastating for Vodbull and for Risto especially. He was running so well.
Well, yeah, we got away with it last time out. Rudy had an even worse engine last time out, but I think the rain helped there, and we did turn it dead. Last time out we saw we saw Lopez blow his engine, and we just turned to boost 1 and went below revs and everything, and got through it by the looks of it. We did the same to Risto there when Gaia went out, but obviously not early enough by the sounds of it. That's disappointing, to be honest. Poor Risto. It does beg a question. You're going to be really clever where you pick these engines now, and there's quite a few on the grid that I'd now be worried as well.
Morris, especially because he's only on 29%.
I was just going to say, yeah. Do you think that battle with Lee Morris? Do you think Risto was basically pushing the car a little bit too hard? Did he get drawn into the battle with Lee, or do you think the?
No, I don't think we didn't do anything different than we planned. It wasn't like we got drawn in. We didn't think, having done what we did, we thought we could quite happily go with it. We'd done a lot of testing beforehand, and we thought it was fine, but evidently not. Hold hands up. Mistake made there. Yeah. You can't get to the end of the race with a 23% engine at full kilt, basically. Risto unfortunately doesn't have a middle gear. He is very much his heart on his sleeve. He will go for it if he can. He will go for it. There's a few others. Hawkeye Cooper as well. 31% engine. That'll be on the limit.
Yeah. He'll be close. Yeah, I was going to say Cooper will be close, but he's got a bit more life than the likes of Morris. So if he can just make it hold on, he could be on for still 4th.
I think when we originally tested the mod at the very start of the season, we thought 30% would be absolutely fine. Anything below 25 we thought was pushing it. So you might find Morris is perfectly fine.
Okay. It depends on how hard he's been pushing it through the race, doesn't it? If he's had more boost.
Yeah. And he has definitely been pushing it. So
but to be fair, he can turn it down now. There's no reason for him not to.
True, absolutely true. Well, we're going to let you continue on with things on the pit wall. Apologies that one car is gone, but there's still one at the front.
Oh yeah, this one's doing rather well, isn't it?
Nice work, Mike. Thanks very much.
It is. Bye.
So with Rudy Van Buren still leading the way, 38 seconds now is the gap to Lee Morris, and that is on pace. So, well, Lee Morris, I think, has he just taken another pit stop? I think he did, didn't he? Has he just made another pit stop? Have I just got that wrong?
I'm just checking on the lap times. It doesn't look. I don't know whether he has pitted again.
No, sorry, it was Fiduk. It was Fiduk. Sorry, Fiduk was.
And he's on the ultras.
So Fiduk is on ultras. Is he now thinking, well, Morris has got a sluggish engine? Will the team have told him, Morris has got a sluggish engine, let's try and push him into a corner. Let's see if we can give him some pressure and see if we can make that blow.
Perhaps so. Maybe Fiduk's going to give the race based on reliability rather than... this has almost become an endurance race, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's looking a little bit weckish, to be fair, but Morris doing a fine job in second position. Looks like he can hang on to it as Hoekstra makes a pit stop. But, well, this is very tough to tell because we've got the likes of Morris, Wright Kilk, and Alex Cooper all on very low engines. Cooper, I think, should just about survive, depending on how hard he's been pushing. But certainly, Wright Kilk could be a problem, and Lee Morris, his engine could be a problem as well. So we need to keep an eye on both of those cars.
Absolutely, eyes must be kept absolutely fixed on these cars at the moment, and well, I'm going to be keeping a very firm eye on the battles that are ensuing as well, because, well, you never know what's going to happen in Super League, as we've just proven 3 engine failures in as many laps, pretty much. Obviously, 2 of them through reliability, 1 through just error, but yeah, interesting times ahead in the remainder of this race. 20% to go, but this race is by no means over.
Yeah, Nero Tiberius writing on YouTube, so best not to pick engines under 30%. Well, certainly not at Nurburgring, because obviously, as we did say at the start of the race, this is a circuit that's very abrasive. It's aggressive on the suspension. It's tough on tyre wear. You've got to be very careful how you get the setup. And despite the fact that this is quite a tight and twisty flowing circuit, it's got a huge quantity of very high speed, very high G-force loading corners, which is obviously going to put a strain on the engine. So I don't think that the likes of Lee Morris, Wright Kilk, or even Alex Cooper are dead out of the water yet.
Yeah, not entirely. They're not clear, but they're not out of it. You know, they're in that weird sort of middle zone where they're in danger of losing, but not quite.
I think that's known as limbo, isn't it?
Yeah, limbo, purgatory, call it what you want.
Oh, Lucas Euler makes the move on Wright Kilk. So Euler has gone up into 12th position, and he got that done fairly smart, actually, as he made his way past Wright Kilk using DRS before they even got to the braking zone.
Bit of a jiggle, though. Yeah. And he had a problem there. Sven de Vries comes in. I don't know whether he's going to really fall foul to Kilk here.
Well, but yeah, Kilk is in.
Kilk's in. And I tell you what, we're talking nostalgia. Roland versus Euler. This is 2011 right here.
Rub your hands together with glee, folks. It's retro hour here in the GPVWC Super League because Nick Rowland is bearing down on Lucas Euler. Pinch me, I'm in a fairy tale. As they come through turn 2, Nick Rowland is trying to make ground on his old rival. This is the equivalent of Schumacher and Hill coming back to race again. It's an amazing squabble.
Never mind his old rival, his old driver. Of course, Midnight Motorsport former team manager and Lucas Euler winning both championships with him. This is really a battle of two old guards of the GPVWC. Really is, you know, you look left and right, you see things coming back from the good old days. Who said my haircut? But yeah, you know, these two really gunning for each other.
And you can bet that the team managers with a little wry grin are saying, Lucas, Nick is right behind you, and likewise, Nick, you're closing in on Lucas, and you can bet that there's a little bit of the back of their head just having a wry grin at that moment. I wonder if he's going to go for it, and it's going to be a really interesting squabble. Meanwhile, David Fidek is just in front of Gergo Baldi, with Fidek having made the pit stop. I think Baldi has pitted recently as well, so there's not much to choose between those two. About a second or so. Lee Morrison second, just looking at the back of his car, no smoke yet, nor Right Kilk. He's the first one who is likely to go. Basically, if Right Kilk's engine goes, we know that Lee Morris is in serious trouble.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on Kilk. Of course, it could be that Morris goes first if he was pushing harder. I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on them through the rest of the race. But Lounger writes in the chat, engines go to 20% on the third use. That would mean 3 extra engines with back of the grid needed for a season. Well, if you're not good on engine management, then perhaps so. But obviously, teams will have that planned in.
But of course, Red Archer will have told Right Kilk, look, we've just had engine blows for Flo Gaia and for Risto Capit. You have to conserve your engine now. They were probably, that's probably the reason actually that Lucas Euler, sorry, that's probably the reason that Lucas Euler was able to get past him so quickly. As Fidek is in the pits again.
Maybe just getting the ultras out of the way, I don't know, but he's onto the ultras now, obviously. He's going to come into his pit box, hits the brakes, hits his marks, up onto the jacks. Yep, he was just getting them out of the way because he's on the supers.
Well, yeah, but he's obviously pitted before Baldi has needed to. I wonder if that's a mistake from Nordian. Because, well, has he been on the ultras at all in this race?
Well, Baldi's on the ultras now, and Fidek, that was his first stint on the ultras. Baldi's on them now and has to pit again.
Okay, Van Buren into the pits. This should be for the last time. So Rudy Van Buren, calm and collected out in front, completes lap 50. They've been working on 11 lap stints with these tyres. So Rudy Van Buren has obviously had enough rubber on the tyre to be able to push it to that extra lap. So he only now has to do 10 laps on these tyres. He comes out in front of Jarl Tyen, who is in 7th position. There's one word to describe this guy: masterclass.
It is Van Buren. You go into a Super League race these days and you just expect him to win because he's that good. He's with such a good team as Vodball. Ever since they came back into Super League, they've had the rise on drivers' titles and they've gotten them with the form of Filip Puška as well. But, you know, well, at least almost with Filip Puška. But, you know, they've always had drivers who can. As Roland in the pits now for all Madcape. But, you know, Vodball have always been a successful team. And when they came back, they've had the successful drivers. Maybe this year they'll prove it with Van Buren.
Just keeping an eye on Lee Morris out in 2nd position. He will, of course, have been told by the Madcape team. We've just seen Gaia and Capit pull off to the side with engine failures. They were on old engines like you are. You don't need to push. You're a long way in front of Baldi and Fidek. Just turn the engine down. Morris is going to try and push this as far as he can in terms of tyres. If he's turned the engine down, he won't be working the tyres quite so hard. I would not be surprised if Lee Morris pits at the end of this lap and it's his last pit stop.
Well, we were about 70% of the race when the engines blew, didn't we? And if you have a 22% engine and it's only lasted, you know, 0.7% of the race, you do the laps. Well, I'm going to do the maths on that, actually, and see if we're expecting failures. Just give me a moment on that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of the percentage of it, you could guess that Lee Morris would be in trouble. But I have a feeling that the Madcape team saw that and went, Lee, turn the boost down, turn it down. Just keep it going as much as you can. You're going to blow the engine and we're going to lose all of this if you don't look after the car. So just keep it together, bucko. And at the moment, Lee Morris is doing that. But he doesn't pit, so he's obviously going to have a couple more laps, maybe just one more lap on this set of tyres before he needs to pit. But Morris in 2nd position in front of Gergo Baldi. David Fidek is in 4th position in front of Fran Lopez and Alex Cooper. who is the next car in the queue to be lapped by Rudy Van Buren. Cooper in 6th position,
Well,
lapped by RVB.
my calculations are saying 31 and 32% required, so Morris is in danger if he doesn't turn the boost down.
I'm sure they will have done. I'm absolutely positive of it. Right, Kilk, meanwhile, is easily the driver we need to be keeping an eye on here because he had less boost than he had less engine life than Lee Morris did. As into the pits comes the third place man, Gergo Baldi. Where's David Fidek? He's in the final turn, so he'll take that third place back. And that should be, well, that should be Fidek through to the finish line now, surely. And likewise, Baldi.
Yeah, they shouldn't need. Well, Baldi's actually on the Ultras.
That is interesting.
Unless he thinks he can make them go further.
Surely, Baldi. Surely, Baldi cannot make those tyres last 9 laps.
Well, yeah, Baldi in, Lopez in. If Lopez goes on the Ultras as well, we'll be in for a very sunset showdown here in Germany. Going to be interesting to see if they can make the tyres last. Cooper could be on for 4th. Well, what's Fran Lopez going to do? Comes into the jacks and he's on Supers.
Yeah, that's the only way to go. You've just got to have one more pit stop, not 2. But Gergo Baldi has got a trick up his sleeve here. He knows something we don't as he goes on to the Ultras. I can't imagine why this is a good move for Baldi, unless he's had to go on to Ultras, of course. I don't know. Has he been on the Ultras through the race?
Baldi, I don't know whether he has, but I haven't really been watching. Morris in though from 2nd. Obviously going to come into the pits now. I assume this is going to go on to a fresh set of tyres. Whether it'll be ultra softs or not, I don't know. He's got 8 laps, so I doubt it'll.
Yeah, it's got to be soft for me.
On Supers, yep, he stays on the Supers, and well, no change there. Fidek's going to gain time, but with Lee Morris, if his engine is going to go, I think it's going to be within the next 5 laps. Otherwise, he should be clear.
I think he'll be all right, actually. Mad Cape will know that there's a bit of an issue with it. They will know that, obviously, he's got himself into a good position, having broken away from the rest of the pack. The Vod Bulls and Lee Morris managed to drop the rest of the field quite competitively now. Fidek is on a set of super softs, and he will go to the end of the race. There is no percentage at all in letting Lee Morris push. No percentage at all. Mad Cape will have turned him to turn the engine right down. He should be able to get home.
He should be able to get home, yeah, but he's still using all of the revs as Lee Morris. He's going about 14, 100. He's still using he's revving the heck out of that engine still. You know, he's going up to the rev limiter, so, you know, maybe he needs to start short shifting, I don't know. Yeah. But Fidek, well, he's going to try and catch if Morris is going conservative here.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're right. Lee Morris is definitely jeopardising his own race here by going high revs. He's 48 seconds down on Rudy Van Buren and 20 clear of David Fidek. He can hang on to 2nd position if he short shifts and looks after the engine from here. 20 seconds, he won't lose that in 7 laps if he's careful. But he cannot afford to keep pushing at those high revs. He cannot afford to keep stretching the engine, even if the boost is turned down. You know, stretching the engine to those high revs is definitely exacerbating the lifespan. Lee Morris needs to be careful here, unless, of course, Mad Cape have done their calculations and figured out that even if he does do that, it should be all right. But he's flirting with disaster there.
He is dicing with danger, isn't he, Lee Morris? He always has been wanting to push it to the limit, and if that engine goes, he won't be a happy man, I can assure you of that. And David Fidek will be happy because he gets a 2nd out of it, obviously. But Baldi might go onto the podium, Cooper might be 4th. But Cooper himself, we've got to remember, is in danger.
Yeah, absolutely. Cooper is another one we need to be keeping an eye on. Right, Kilk, just watching him. A little bit of a wiggle out of the final turn, but no smoke out of the back of the car, which is the important thing. Rudy Van Buren, though, comfortable on lap 54 of 60. This race is going to be all about him at the front again. He has never lost the lead of this race. Well, I say never. There was a brief moment in the race during the first pit stop period when Rudy Van Buren was 2nd. Who was it that was in the lead at that point? I'm trying to remember who it was that took the lead in the early stages. I think it might have been Lee Morris, who had took the lead very briefly in the proceedings.
Yeah.
But,
aside from that, he's pretty much got to be on for the Grand Slam, hasn't he?
Yeah, for a pole position, fastest lap and race win coming the way of Rudy Van Buren. He things by halves. Risto, a very frustrated spectator on the pit wall after the engine blow that's seen his race go up in smoke, quite literally. Lee Morris, though, running in 2nd place, looking okay for the moment. Oh, that's a bit of an issue for Machim Linek. Something has happened there that's cost him a couple of places.
He's lost his front wing. He's lost his front wing. Must got entangled with somebody at some point. What it was when he was coming out, he was coming into the chicane, and oh, it was Euler was there, but it was before that. I know actually he has his front wing. Sorry, I tell a lie. I thought he'd lost it, but he hadn't, and he must have come into the pits.
Yeah, just
and he's gone into Walters.
Yeah. Regular pit stop then for Maciej Mlinek. But,
I'm just saying, actually, fair point from Andreas Wouters. Baldy's just taken 3 seconds out of Fidek.
He certainly has. That's what the Ultrasofts have done. Is he trying to get himself onto the podium? Does he genuinely think he can keep this car going at that sort of speed to give Fidek some pressure? That would be interesting to see if he can do it. And if anyone's going to give that kind of challenge to him, it's going to be Gergo Baldi. But Lee Morris has actually closed up a little bit on Rudy Van Buren. The gap down to 47 seconds. So that is the sign of the times for Rudy Van Buren. Just chilling out at the front of the race. He doesn't need to push this. He just needs to make sure he hits every apex. Just coasting round. He could still lose about half a minute and win this race by over 15 seconds. Such is the pace of Rudy Van Buren. He does not have to panic here at all. This race is his to lose. Louis Morris in second place. Still working hard. Still high on the revs as well, I notice. But they obviously know something we don't. They obviously think it's fine.
Must have done the maths. They must have done the maths then.
So Fidek third, Baldi in fourth. He's definitely catching him. So Gergo Baldi out of the final, out of that hairpin at the bottom end of the circuit, sorry. Up through the left-hander. Let's ride on board with Gergo Baldi as he chases after your man in third place, David Fidek. All looking neat and tidy for him at the moment, but you can see Fidek getting bigger as Gergo throws it into the left-hander up the top of the hill, through the right. And let's listen to him on the throttle as they lap right Kilk. Here we go. No blip at all through the right kink, down to second gear, up and over the curbs, left, right. Gergo Baldi is a man on a mission, isn't he, Josh? He just doesn't want to slow up.
He can't afford to slow up if he's going to catch Fidek and Gergo, and there's about behind them as well, Cooper and Lopez going at it, but Gergo really the star attraction at the moment. Going to try and lap right Kilk, then get David Fidek, that V6 screaming as he pushes it to limit into turn 1, as they do these days, and well, Gergo Baldi's going to get through on Kilk down the inside. Now he's going to chase Fidek. Nicely done, but Lopez close on Cooper as well.
Well, surely the tyres for Gergo Baldi are going to die before he gets close enough to him to make the overtaking move. I can't see how he'll make these Ultrasofts last the distance.
Well, perhaps he won't. Perhaps he won't, and this is a bad strategy call from Baldi, but Cooper and Lopez almost side by side, and look, Lopez is going to go for the inside, but it's not going to work. Cooper's got it held, almost contact between them. Lopez down the inside though. Cooper holds the position. Great driving from Alex Cooper, while defending his engine, but here comes Lopez. Contact between the two, and just about gets through to Lopez, but he waits up and lets Cooper through. That is good of Lopez, that.
Yeah, good sportsmanship there. I think Fran Lopez admitted, you know what, that was just a little bit too feisty. Not sure I can really let that one go. I'll just have to give you the place back and we'll have another crack. So third position is getting closer with Gergo Baldi on the back of David Fidek, although I don't think those tyres are going to last long at all for Baldi, the way he's going to push them. Those are the Ultrasofts, don't forget, and they only lasted about 5 laps in the opening phase of the race. Cooper and Lopez, they are battling away together for 5th position. Jarl Tyen has well and truly dealt with Ben Schupadek now. So that is done and dusted, although there's only a few seconds in it. Wopke Hoekstra 9th, and up to 10th position again has come Lucas Euler, steadily getting on with things. Sven de Vries, Maciej Mlinek, Nick Rowland, Tobias Olsen, Right Kilk, Michael Ayers makes his way through. And don't love it. Yeah, Baldi's in. There's there was never, ever going to be a month of Sundays where he was going to beat him on that strategy. No way at all.
Well, yeah, he's had to come in, and he's actually maybe just getting him out of the way because he's gone onto the Ultrasofts. Cooper's going to gain loads of time, and Fidek's going to get away. Probably going to consolidate third now, to be honest, is David Fidek, you know, with that position there. And now Cooper's going to be on the back of Baldi, and, well, he's got to catch up with the tyre heat now. Cooper's already got his tyres heated up, no problems for him, as Rudy Van Buren on lap 658 just grows ever closer at the end of this race, and it will be a dominant one.
Baldi is on the super softs, so he's obviously going to try and have a fresher set of tyres than the likes of Morris and Fidek. We apologise to viewers on the YouTube stream. We seem to be constantly stuck on Lee Morris. Not entirely sure what the issue is there, but we've been watching the man in second position on the YouTube feed for quite a long time now. So hopefully we'll be able to pick up some of the other battles a little bit later on in the race. Cooper, by the way, has still got Fran Lopez only about a second and a half or so behind him. So clearly when Lopez let Cooper go, he let him go a bit too much there. That almost killed the battle. Cooper locks up big style into the hairpin though, so that's going to make things particularly entertaining. Hopefully we'll get Argo Tida to have a look at this battle for 5th position at the moment. So we'll try and keep tabs on that one. Lee Morris currently 48 seconds adrift of Rudy Van Buren in the lead of the race, but there's no puffs of smoke from the likes of either Wright Kilk, Alex Cooper or Lee Morris. So it looks to me as though they've all learnt their lessons from earlier on in the race when we lost Florian Gaia and Risto Capit to engine failures due to poor life of the tyres, poor life of the engines there. They are going to be obviously very, very cautious in the lower stages of the race. But Rudy Van Buren leading from Lee Morris. Fidek, Baldy, Cooper, Lopez, Tayan, Zubanek, Hoekstra and Euler. And at the moment, it's Tobias Olsen versus Wright Kilk in the battle for 14th and 15th position. That's particularly close.
Yeah, they are quite close together, Olsen and Kilk at the moment, really giving each other a good battle. As regards the engine situation, if it was going to go, it would just suddenly explode, so you don't really know how the engines are doing until they fail. You don't really see smoke, usually that's through overheating. But yeah, Morris looks fine so far at least, to be honest with you. I think he's probably going to make the end of this race. And Kilk and Olsen, well, Olsen's gotten through on Kilk, and he's the other one with a bit of a dangerous engine, but he should be fine as well.
So let's see how this actually works out long term. We've got 2 laps to go in this race, and I'm not entirely sure where this is going to finish up for the Cooper-Lopez battle. Lopez, I think, has just about got the same sort of life of tyres as Cooper. There might be a lap or two's discrepancy, but Lopez is definitely gunning for that top 5 position. Meanwhile, we've got Machi and Sven having a good scrap. Mlinek versus De Vries for 11th position, while also Olsen and Kilk continues to be very close. As into the pits on the last couple of laps of the race comes Dan Lovett. But Rudy Van Buren is about to go on to the final lap of this race, having been absolutely masterclass throughout the entirety of the race. So this is going to be a really interesting final lap for him as he just continues on. No problems at all, no questions asked, as Lee Morris runs in 2nd position. No major difficulties there either. Fidek in 3rd, Baldy in 4th position, and that's the way it'll stay for those two to the flag. Cooper versus Lopez, getting very close up against the pit wall as Lopez dives up the inside of Cooper. I'm having it, mate! And he just storms through, takes the position. That was properly close to the pit wall for Fran Lopez, and Alex Cooper will not be happy.
Oh, he won't be happy. He's just lost out on 5th. He's going to charge.
Oh, we lost Wright Kilk. Wright Kilk has had an off on that last lap as well. Kilk had an incident there.
Oof. You got to worry. Did the engine have gone there, mate? But it hasn't. It's fine. But yeah, Kilk had an off there. Ayres has gone into 15th, and his fellow teammates. So Red Arch are not losing out points-wise. But yeah, Cooper versus Lopez. Really close battle. Lopez gets a bit wide there, actually.
So Rudy Van Buren is going to come through for the end of this race with a victory once again in his pocket. He has won all but 3 races so far this year as Wright Kilk pulls off the circuit, having had some difficulties there with some contact. The car is too damaged to be at full tilt, so he's just trying to get it home as fast as he can. But Rudy Van Buren is going to come down the back straight now and through the right kink and down to the final chicane. This is a great run for Rudy Van Buren, who once again takes 1 step closer to the 2017 GPVWC Super League title. He is about to take his 7th win of the 2017 season out of 10. Just is his dominant streak. Over the line comes Rudy Van Buren and takes the checkered flag. Brilliant result for Rudy Van Buren, who gets the job done again in fine style. Lopez versus Cooper goes to the final corner, but Fran Lopez takes a big victory in that battle. 5th position in front of Alex Cooper, who slams straight into the pit wall at the end of the race. He's very frustrated, clearly, with the way his race has ended. Lee Morris is going to be able to hang on to 2nd position. Unfortunately, for those watching on YouTube, it's been the Lee Morris show for the last 10 to 15 minutes or so of the race. But Lee Morris is going to hang on for 2nd position. See, they were very cautious in the end. They turned the boost right down when they saw Capit pull off and they saw Flo Gaia pull off. But Lee Morris is going to be able to make it to the flag. No problems at all. Similarly, too, for Alex Cooper, who brought it right to the finish line. But it is a 2nd place in the end for Lee Morris. And yet again, consistency and good podium finishes for David Fidek. He will come through for 3rd, Josh.
And a well-deserved 3rd as well for Fidek. He was there or thereabouts. This is what we're talking about, David Fidek. We call him Mr. Consistency for a reason. Only his 1st ever Super League DNF this season. And Fidek, well, 3rd in Britain, 2nd in Hungary, 3rd in Germany. Come back on.
Right to the very end of the race, we're going to get a nice little tasty scrap between Olsen and Ayres. They're going to
Oh, where's... Oh, he's gone off.
A shot! He's overshot into the chicane. So Olsen is going to take the place back right to the very end of the race. But that was a very nice little battle just in front of David Fidek. But he has gone across the line. Oh, just behind him, I should say. In front of Gego Baldi, though, who comes home in 4th position. And it was all the way to 4th position. Everybody was lapped. Unbelievable. An absolutely incredible result. And a truly sensational race here for Rudy Van Buren. That was a very interesting one in terms of the strategies. It would have been interesting to see who would have won out in the battle between Rudy Van Buren, between Risto Capit and it would have been very difficult to see who would have won the battle between Risto Capit and Lee Morris in terms of penalties. But what an absolutely, in terms of strategy, sorry, but what an absolutely fantastic performance there from Rudy Van Buren. Let's get him straight into the box and have a word with Rudy Van Buren after what has been an absolutely sensational victory for him. Rudy, absolutely amazing job, mate. And once you got into the lead of that one, you were never looking back.
Hello, good evening. Yes, textbook race, to say it in a short way. Strategy on point, car on point. Not the best in the beginning, but it got really towards me and could push when needed, could extend the gap massively when needed, and cruise home in the end. So very happy with that one. The VBM Valiant car did a very good job.
And it was a really, really tough race in terms of strategy. You guys had a really, really good battle in the early stages of the race. But once you guys got out in front, it was quite clear, you know, that start was electric from both you and Risto. The race was really set in stone from there.
Yeah, we've been having good starts all season. So we got that on point. And I knew that my car wasn't the best in the beginning on the heavy fuel load. And it was just about keeping those tires alive and just getting the gap and not getting within striking distance from P2 and 3 and just steadily build it. And from like the third stint onwards, the car really got towards me and I could just extend the gap and get it home safe.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. And to be fair, I mean, once you worked out how long the tyres would last you, was it just about ticking off the laps and keeping the strategy flowing? Did it ever look as if there were going to be any issues?
No, we had a strategy dialed prior to the race. I knew what I was doing. I needed to do two 10-lappers and 3 11-lappers, and I could just pop them in when I wanted, track position-wise, getting back out of the pit stop and so on. So the initial plan was going like 7, 10, 10, and then 11, 11, 11, and we swapped it around a bit because it was better getting out of the pits once time. But apart from that, it was all good.
Absolutely amazing. And to be fair as well, you know, was that the easiest race you've had this year in terms of keeping everything together? It looked pretty straightforward. Well,
the easiest races I've got were mostly the one that ended the worst, thinking about Sochi and so on. I was actually completely not happy in quali. I was half a second off my PP, and I just
Mike said that you were really down after that.
Pole is good, but I was not satisfied at all with that, and it even started at the beginning of the race, not feeling 100% comfortable, but just needing like keep the head in. And it got towards me, like you get into the flow, and then it's all good. But no, I was not happy with the qualifying at all.
You're starting very, very I don't know if you're aware of it, but you're starting very casually there to sound like an old Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry sketch where Stephen Fry is shouting at a racing driver who's won the race saying, well, I wasn't happy with the car. I wasn't happy. But absolutely fantastic anyway. And brilliant start. I mean, that, of course, extends your lead in the championship and heading to the next round. It's all looking pretty rosy.
Yeah, it should be all good. We actually got past the point with all the talks about one car being a lot better than the other one, and many guys have said it in here. The Vauxhalls are half a second quicker this time around and all that kind of stuff. This time we were not the highest in points development-wise. Well, actually in the list we were, but it was bit repair, so that doesn't count. And we still showed it. It's a very big bummer for Risto because he did a really good job with that engine being down on power. And with Lee going an extra pit stop, he had that second place secured. So we'll be back for Spa for sure.
Brilliant job. Absolutely fantastic work there through the race, Rudy Van Buren. Absolutely amazing, and well done for your 7th win out of 10 so far this year. Well done, buddy.
Yep, thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Right, I think we should go over to David Fidek, who's been a very strong runner again here at the Nurburgring. A really, really strong competitor. David, absolutely brilliant, buddy. I mean, another podium in difficult circumstances, but again, a smooth run, and the car just ran as well as it could be expected to be.
Yeah, evening all. Hope you enjoyed the summer break, everyone. Yeah, it's probably the most disappointing, sad, pathetic podium I've ever had. The car was just absolutely nowhere. I mean, obviously we had the 2-week gap, and then I started testing again, but no matter what I did to the car in testing, nothing worked. Like, it just felt so bad. So, yeah, I'm surprised I even got the podium. Like, I said to Flo just before quali, I said, if I get top 10 in quali, I'll be happy. And I was
really
5th. Yeah, it's pathetic, man. And I was never like 4/10 off my PB in quali, so I only would have been equal or just beat Alex. So, yeah, it was that bad. Didn't expect podium. I was expecting top 8 maybe, but yeah, troubles with other people. I think Risto's engine went, which helped me up to 3rd. But yeah, it was a good battle with Gergo trying to second guess his pit stops each time. Florian saw his pit light on his wheel to come in on the last stop, and I reacted to it, and the bugger stayed out. So it's like, no, you can't double block me. But yeah, luckily he was pushing too hard on the ultras in the end and managed to keep 3rd. But yeah, it's an alright race. But yeah, considering the updates we had on the car, and yeah, it was disappointing, to be honest. So yeah, Spa is going to have to be like triple the effort or whatever. Yeah.
I was just going to say, you know, what happens then in terms of heading to Spa? I mean, where do you go from here? If the car is, the updates have come onto the car and you're still nowhere near the pace you want to be at, I mean, what has to change heading to Spa-Francorchamps? What comes next?
Just got to hope it's to track, Jake, to be honest. Because Silverstone, we had the same delta gap to Vodbo as we did this race, and Florian managed to beat them, obviously, and I got 3rd. We put up a good fight, so hopefully it's just track related. Yeah, Spa is one of my favourites, so yeah, my fingers are crossed and touching a lot of wood to see if it is just a track. I hope it is, but that's all I can hope for now. This race is just wiped off the calendar. I don't know why we were that far back.
Well, it's a big disappointment. I'm going to bring your teammate into the room at this point as well now, because Flo Gaia, from the back of the grid, Flo, I mean, it's just devastating. I mean, you knew coming into this race that the engine was not going to be at its best, and you knew there was a chance that it might not go the distance. But considering how much ground you made up, that must be so devastating.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, what should I say? I mean, yeah, of course, it's pretty frustrating. It came pretty unexpected, to be honest. I had the highest radiator setting, so I played everything safe. But yeah, I think I didn't do that bad, considering I had no testing, like really no testing. I started yesterday with a broken wheel, or had wheel issues. So yeah, I really only like an hour today to really do a little bit, and I think for that I didn't do that bad. I was doing some good moves, I think. Only the R10 on lap 1 had like a massive brain fade into the hairpin at the bottom section of the track and really like hit me off. I could pretty much see it coming, to be honest, but luckily for some reason I didn't suffer any damage, so I kept going and made my way back through the field. Yeah, but it wasn't really the best way for the second part of the season to start. But for Spa, I think it's all back to regular testing, and hopefully the wheel is going to hold on.
That's a real shame. Josh, did you have anything to speak to the guys from Nortien about there after a very tough race?
Yeah, I was going to say, David, well, you're on a bit of a comeback, aren't you? You got 3rd in the second to previous race. You had 3rd, 2nd, and 3rd in the last 3 races. You said you were a bit of a slow burn. You get better towards the end of the season. Couple of race wins by the season end?
It feels like it's going backwards, Josh. Like with this race. Yeah, that was the hope. That was the plan. I mean, I tried different things during the winter break and tried experimenting like we did last year and hoped to gain some time. But no, it was just worse. I don't know what happened. Again, I just hope it's the track. Considering I paced a couple of races before that, but all I can do that race was bring the car home. So yeah, me and Flo are going to have to be flat out from tomorrow on Spa and hope to go back to our Silverstone pace, because yeah, I'm just puzzled at the minute. I don't know what to say, but yeah.
Yeah, well, a very famous racing driver once said, when in doubt, flat out, and I'm sure you're going to be applying that strategy from here on in. Thank you, David. Thank you, Florian, for joining us in the comments booth. Pleasure to have you as always.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, boys. Well, we're going to have to move on to the Spa-Francorchamps round of the championship very shortly, of course, because it's not going to be too long before we start thinking about the next element of the championship. Of course, we're a little bit confused at the moment because Argo, bless him, seems to have had the world's longest coffee break. I've never known so many people watching a blank screen on YouTube before. But we're doing the best we can to rectify this, and hopefully it will be sorted ready in time for the next round of the championship at Spa. But very interesting indeed, Josh, to see just how tough the battle was behind. It was very much Lee Morris versus Risto Capit throughout until the engine failure, and then after that it was just a question of who was going to pick up the scraps.
Yeah, it was, and obviously, it was really close battles throughout, and the engine failures really spiced it up as well. Obviously, teams will be reevaluating their wear policies now, thinking how much can we actually get away with. But, questions to be asked going in the next round. Will Rudy Van Buren continue his dominance? Will David Fidek get a win? Will Florian Gaia get another go? And how many more engines will fail over the course of the season? You'll just have to tune in the next episode of GPVWC Super League and find out.
Absolutely, and considering that the next one is at the world's greatest racetrack for Grand Prix cars, do not contest that, ladies and gentlemen. Spa-Francorchamps, we should have a really interesting one, especially if it's predicted to be wet, Josh.
Spa always throws up good races in the wet. 1998 in Formula 1 was one of them. Super League is better than Formula 1. You'd be mad to miss it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Josh Anderson, once again, for your brilliant comms in the commentary box with me. Looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks' time.
Same with you, Jake.
Of course, we're going to have all of the analysis from this race in the Super League show handled by simnews.tv with myself, Ben Willis, and Casper Collar-Dijik about a week or so after this race. So about a week from now, you'll be able to listen back to the show. So it's going to be a really interesting end to the season. But the second half of the championship has now kicked off in earnest. Rudy Van Buren is still the king of the hill, but there's going to be some really interesting challenges to go up against them. I don't know how long you want to stare at a blank screen. We'll try and get rid of it at some point, but we're all going off the air now, and we'll let it continue on in earnest. But do join us again for the next round of GPVWC. Don't forget, of course, Formula Challenge is on the Tuesday in just under a fortnight's time. Then, of course, Super Cup on the Wednesday and Super League on the Thursday. And the next one is Spa-Francorchamps. Tell your mates, tell your buddies, share it and tweet it. It's going to be a really good 3 evenings viewing. I'm Jake Sanson, signing out for GPVWC on behalf of Argo, Josh, and everybody behind the scenes at GPVWC Super League. It's been another great victory for Rudy Van Buren. How many more has he got left in him? We'll find out soon. See you soon.